Good afternoon, race fans, and welcome to the final round of the 2025 Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. It's the Battle on the San Jacinto, where we're going to crown 3 champions in all 3 classes here as we wrap up our 2025 schedule. To get things kicked off like we always do at every round here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series, if I could please have everybody rise, remove your hats, for the singing of our national anthem by Formula One Powerboat Championship Series own Brooke Karras. Take it away, Brooke.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All right, let's hear it for Formula One Powerboat Championship Series own Brooke Karras with a fantastic rendition of our Star-Spangled Banner. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get things kicked off here at the final round of 2025, like we did back in Windsor, Colorado for round 6. Here at the Battle on the San Jacinto, back in round 5, we went back to our one-lap qualifiers. They're going to be laying their fastest elapsed time around this 4-pin course here on the San Jacinto River. And coming out first is the driver who got caught up in Colorado, looking to redeem here in the Battle on the San Jacinto. Coming out first, the number 9 of Johnny Fleming.
All right, we've got Johnny Fleming here from the number 9 of Fleming Racing. He just talked about that. You had some boat damage last race at Windsor, Colorado. Tell us about the boat damage that you had and the repairs you had to make.
Yeah, it was just a racing incident. It's one of those things that happened. It was, boat was mainly cosmetic, so it was all good. RJ West builds a great boat. His composite crash is fast. He's unfortunately wasn't able to repair it, so we had a local legend we called Mifco do it. He did a great job, not just a patch, but a full repair. Got all confidence in it. We're going to go out and kick some butt.
All right, sounds good. We're going to send him out. First boat out onto the water will be the number 9 of Johnny Fleming, Fleming Racing.
All right, that bright red composite craft looking to lay down the fastest lap here. Can he be the man to beat early and lay down a lap that everybody's got to go catch him? Number 9 of Johnny Fleming has just a few laps in that new boat. If you recall, back at round 5 in Windsor, Colorado, he got into an accident with the 52 of Chris Rinker, and that ended his weekend very early. And he's looking for some redemption here.
Next up on the
San
docket,
Jacinto.
all the way out of Windsor,
Like we had in
Colorado.
Colorado. Joining me now,
we have our
in the
local
announcing
favorite
booth,
right here, Jared
the
Dudson.
legendary Tim
You can't
Siebel.
talk to me
Tim,
with that.
loving this new style that we've moved to here with these one-lap qualifiers. Really gives them that clean water on the course. Let's talk a little bit about how they're going to maybe have to look at things a little bit differently, being out there all by themselves versus the fast lap qualifiers where we had them in small groups previously.
Well, it gives them the choice of where they want to run. So when they're out there in a group, they've got to go where they've got to try and pick a clean lap, where now it is a clean lap. So you're going to see them take a little bit wider turn coming into the start-finish line for the entry, and then they'll run that lap. They'll keep it tight. But, this is a small course here because of the size of water and the water depth. So it's going to be very interesting. And then you've got Johnny Fleming, a new boat, a new engine package, new propellers. So it's going to be very exciting for him. It's a hometown race.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And we saw the 9 of Johnny Fleming. All right, it looks like we're going to kick it back over to K-Dub down there with the number 98. The lone Canadian made his way all the way down from Ontario, the number 98 of Aiden Benton.
All right, we've got our lone Canadian out here all the way to Ontario, Canada, coming off of a second-place win in New Martinsville, West Virginia last weekend. How are you feeling getting into this boat right here in Highlands, Texas?
It's hot. I mean, we're down to 32 degrees back home. The boats run awesome on that. We had to jet them down a little bit to come out here with this wet air. But you know what? We're sweating. I got my umbrella on me to keep the sun away. We're just going to do our best and finish off the season on a high note.
All right, he's going to finish off the season and make his way back across the border. We're going to keep on going down the line here.
All right, that's the 98 of Aiden Benton in that purple and white.
Lee craft.
Yeah, that's a Lee craft. That thing's been around.
Yeah.
Been around. It's seen a few laps out on the water, hasn't it, Tim?
It has. That boat's got more experience than the driver, but you know what? He has been supporting the races, and he's coming down, so it's good to see him.
Absolutely. All right, we got our next driver up down there with Kay Myers, chatting on what it's like to lay down these fast lap qualifiers. Kay?
A great group, a pretty interesting group as it is. You didn't do so well at the last race, so you had to have your punishment. What was your punishment?
Unfortunately, my teammates got to give me the hot wax treatment. I don't know how you women do that. It's not enjoyable, but they had a lot of fun. I, however, did not.
Well, Travis Yates, you've had one heck of a year. You know, how are you feeling going into the last race of the season here for the F1 Powerboat Championship?
Man, it's been a good year. We've had some breakdowns here. We would have been a little better than we are right now, but all in all, I consider this a good year for us. Looking forward to finishing out strong and set up things to get ready for next year.
Well, good luck to you in the snap-on. That will be Travis Yates in the 99.
99 of Travis Yates with that new APX package from Mercury Racing on the back of that number 99, Chartreuse in black. JH Performance Machine, a part of that Outlaw crew. And boy, Tim, that APX package has really made some headway here in the United States. I think we are leading the world in the new four-stroke package here in Formula One tunnel boat racing.
You know, the Apex 250, we did a lot of the original testing right here on this course. So, you know, this is a great venue for it. It's got a lot of mid-range and grunt off the dock. And this is Travis Yates kind of water right here.
Absolutely. He seems to love that water here in the southeast Texas. I guess it helps that this is his testing ground and a lot of familiarity with not only him but a lot of our drivers here in the classes. We do have a fairly large contingency from southeast Texas.
A lot of guys grew up here. The boat club's been around since 1954, so they all grew up racing here.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to send it down to our next driver as they're with Kay on what their plans are here in this fast lap qualifier.
All right, we have Spencer Love here of the Clover Construction out of Santa Rosa, California. You know, Spencer, you got some hot competition. You got Travis Yates on one side of you, and you got Grant Schubert on the other side of you. Who's your biggest competition this weekend?
Rest. Rest is my biggest competition, I think. No, everybody out here is hard to beat. It should be a good weekend, some good racing, and I don't know. You got to look at everybody now. Everybody's getting fast, so just got to get some rest.
All right, well, Spencer Love, he's got that mask on. I'm not sure if you're able to hear him through that, but he's ready to rock and roll. That's going to be the Clover Construction, driven by Spencer Love.
Yeah, Spencer Love normally running for Clover Construction. He's got Incubex on the side, one of our fantastic sponsors here from the final round of 2025, putting their faith in the man from Santa Rosa Valley, California, in that all-white Hoffman composite Formula One, and Kay's down there with our next driver.
All right, we got the young gun out here. This is going to be Grant Schubert. Grant Schubert, you know, you got yourself a busy weekend this weekend doing double duty, but what's your favorite one? Is it the Tri-Hall or is the F1s?
I think I like F1 the best because of the intensity.
What do you think about this new starting procedure where we're sending you out one at a time? Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage for you?
I honestly think it's pretty even for everybody. It's clean water for every single one of us. It's just who's better.
All right, well, good luck. That's going to be Grant Schubert inside the Captain Mark Seafood.
Yeah, the Red Rocket, number 13. What a fantastic run the 13 of Grant Schubert had in Windsor, Colorado just about a month ago, Tim. I really think this is just the beginning of what we're going to see out of that young driver from Richmond, Texas.
Well, I know Kevin McCullough freshened up the motor because Grant got everything out of that motor up in Windsor, so it was shot afterwards. So it's all fresh, and I talked to him this morning, and he was talking about how good it feels.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to send it down to the man in that Rice Krispie Blue Anderson Marine sponsor machine, the number 17 of Dylan Anderson. He's with K. Myers.
All right, we got Dylan Anderson of Anderson Marine. Dylan's sitting fourth in the high points position right now. Dylan, what's it going to take to get you on the podium for that final race of the season?
We're just going to do what we do and do our best. Doing our best seems to have worked out pretty decent throughout the year, and just hard work and a good team and a good group of sponsors, and I'm just sitting in here driving the rig they give me to drive, and it's been doing pretty good. So we're going to do our best, and if we end up on the top spot, we end up on the top spot.
Well, you go back and forth between the brand new APX and then the 2.5. Why make the change to the 2.5 for this weekend?
So we ran the 2.5 and the APX. The 2.5 was just a little bit off in qualifying speed. And, racing's racing, and we can race pretty good in both boats. So we're going to take the faster qualifying speed and see where we go with it.
All right, that's going to be Dylan Anderson, the number 17 of Anderson Marine.
Boy, Dylan Anderson sitting in that fourth position, 72 points back, coming into the final round with still a legitimate chance to find himself at the top spot of the podium when we wrap up the 2025 season, Tim. Boy, he has really dialed in that APX package that that he's gone to a lot this year, and it looks like, I can't tell, it looks like he does have the APX on the back instead of going back to the two-stroke here, which is surprising due to how close we are to sea level and here at the Gulf with this sticky, warm, humid weather. But we're going to chat with our next driver down there as we get just moments away from our fast lap qualifiers here in the Formula One class.
Here with Jeremiah Mayo, not a stranger to this race here at Highlands, Texas. Got his racing career started in the J-Stock, moved up to 45. Now this weekend, you're going to be going around the course at over 120 miles an hour in this Formula One. How you feeling this morning?
Good. We're feeling pretty confident after our test session this morning.
Well, I did notice that you did make a little bit of a change. There was a power head change. What was that all about?
Yeah, we figured out our motor was getting a little tired. It had some good top end, but it did not like to take off. So we figured we might as well try something in the first session and then try something in the second. So we went ahead and swapped the power head and figured out that our motor, it's time to go back through it, get it cleaned up.
Well, it's about time to find out if that change made a payoff with Jeremiah Mayo right here in the Ray Bobs. Moving over to Chris.
And we've got that Ray Bob seizing the number 8 of Jeremiah Mayo. Hasn't won a race yet this year, but third in points, only a little over 50 points back, Tim. Boy, you got to watch out because that's a scary kid behind the wheel of a Formula One.
He is. He's got the two-stroke package on there, and he's looking for agility for this weekend as his best shot.
Absolutely. We're going to send it down to the man they call the real deal, the number 52 of Chris Rinker, as he's with R.K. Myers.
We are now here with Chris Rinker of Rinker's Boat World Mastercraft. Every weekend they bring out not one, not two, but 3 boats. Why the choice for this weekend to race good old third backup boat?
Well, we're going to dance with who brung us. The Pearl's been a rocket ship ever since I got a hold of her, and we're going to run her hard today, and I think she's got what it takes.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see if that's going to work as he's sitting second on the podium right here. That's Chris Rinker of Rinker Boat World.
Absolutely. The man from Spring, Texas sits 11 points back here at the final round of 2025. Can he pull it off this weekend? Well, only time will tell as he's chasing the man who's looking to go back-to-back. He was your 2024 winner, and he sits atop the points, only 11 points up, but it's a lead nonetheless. What is the defending champion going to do as he looks to dial in this fast lap qualifier as Kay joins our 01 of Dustin Terry.
All right, we're here with Dustin Terry. Dustin Terry, you have got a huge target on your back, being the top high point standings right now. What's it going to take to keep you on that top podium finish?
Man, just consistency. That's the name of the game, right? So we got 3 qualifying heats, and it's about being smart, staying out of trouble, and just doing the same old thing, man, getting comfortable in this old Black Beauty.
You're sitting side by side with your biggest competition of Chris Ranker. What do you got to say to Chris as he's sitting right next to you?
We're going to save it for Saturday night.
All right. Friends out on the water, friends out there on the course, we'll see what happens. We're getting ready to go racing, race fans.
All right, thanks, Kay. Fantastic. As we are going to get ready to rock and roll here as our first boat's going to head out on the water. Tim, let's talk a little bit about what our procedure is like now that we've moved from group qualifying to individual fast lap qualifiers. I believe we're going to go green, white, checkered, or green checkered. What is the process that these guys are going to look to lay down here where they're out on there all by themselves on the race course for their fast lap qualifier?
So here we go with Johnny Fleming. He is going to get 2 laps to get his best lap in. So you're going to see him do 2 consecutive laps, and he'll probably go a little slower around the course for the beginning, keep the engine nice and cool. That way it makes more horsepower, and then he'll probably get on it on the back straightaway, swing wide, and then get a big long run and take the dog leg out of the front straightaway here, giving him a real good shot on turn 1.
As you can see, he's starting to wind it up, just like you said, going down the back straightaway. Let's see if he employs that wide lap.
Yeah.
Absolutely way wide. He's looking to hit that start-finish line at maximum speed, correct?
He sure is. He wants to be at max speed before the start-finish line, so it just rolls right through the first turn.
Boy, look at that, all red. Fleming Manufacturing Composite Craft just laid down the nose and screaming fast as he comes down into turn number 1 here on his opening lap. Good solid turn there. Keeping it off the buoy, is that because of the APX or is that the design of the course, Tim?
No, the first turn you want to be tight. The second turn you can kind of float the back straightaway and then go tight on 3, go tight on 4, and then let it swing out a little bit from there, keeping your speed up. You see how he's letting it float a little outside and take the dog leg out of it.
Absolutely. As he comes across the start-finish line, laying down a 28.995 solid run and a good mark to set here in the opening fast lap qualifiers as he goes for a second lap. The real question is, Tim, can he beat his own fast lap here on his second attempt?
We're going to find out. In Windsor, a lot of guys did better on their second lap than they did on their first lap. And you see Johnny's coming down the straightaway going into the wind, and it picks up right at the start-finish line.
As he crosses our finish line, he goes sub 28 seconds, 27.774. What a great lap to lay down by the 9 of Johnny Fleming. He started first in Colorado and turned some heads there. Looks like he's doing it again.
He did, and that was a smooth 2 laps.
Now here's the kid out on the water, the young driver running for Island Lake Marine, the number 29 of Jared Jensen. This kid has really turned some heads after a fairly disastrous start to the 2025 season where he broke his original boat in half, but he's got this new boat he picked up a few weeks later, and he's really got that thing dialed in.
He does, and he's learning as he's going. He's getting more experience in the Formula One. He likes the tight lines, so he went real tight on turn 1. Let's see how he does.
All right, he crosses the start-finish line, laid it down a 26.683. The driver from Colorado is your new leader here in the fast lap qualifying that will set the starting grid for our first of 3 qualifying heats, 2 today, 1 tomorrow. Can he beat his own lap as he goes down into turn number 3? Off at turn 3 now, comes tight off at turn number 4, right next to the buoy. He puts it back up on his tail, 110, 115, 120 miles an hour as he walks across the start-finish line.
Came out a little wide on after turn 4 to have a straight shot at the start-finish line.
And he did exactly what nobody could do in Colorado. He beats his lap time in lap number 2, and he goes 26.443 around this 4-pin course here on the shores of the San Jacinto River. Now out on the water there is the number 98 of Aiden Benton, running for GT Environmental, TCP ICAP.
Aiden kept it up high going through the first corner. He didn't bury it like the previous 2 drivers, so he's keeping his boat speed up through 1 and 2. Let's see how that works.
It's a little bit longer than some of the other Formula One boats, so he can really carry that speed all the way down to the corner.
It's a 17-footer, and it's not quite as wide as some of the newer boats. So he's got to run the course just a little bit different.
As he comes out of turn number 3, he lays down his first lap, 28.763. Boy, he's a couple of seconds off the fast lap. Might have struggled a little bit there in that opening lap. Again, he's got to run the course a particular way with that lee haul that he's running here in 2025. Little birdie told me might have a different ride in 2026. But for right now, he's got that thing. Oh, boy, he porpoised coming off of turn number 4. And the 28.763 is his fast lap. What caused that porpoising for him coming out of turn 4 there, Tim?
He kind of snapped it back straight coming off of 4, and when he did that, it didn't have enough air under it, and then it's dumping the air out, which is what the porpoising does.
Right on. Well, now we got on the water the man in that chartreuse in black, JH Performance Machine out of Richmond, Texas, number 99, Travis Yates. As Travis walks across start-finish line to start his first fast lap qualifier here. Can he knock off the hard charger from Colorado of Jared Jensen in that 26.443 as he goes off at turn number 2, now down the back straightaway, laying the nose down. That back straight seems to be the trickiest part of the course, especially getting down into turn 3 when they're running with the wind down there, Tim.
You know, they got the wind to their back, so it's harder to get the boat up off of turn 2, and he's struggling a little bit with that, but he's kind of looking really good into the wind. He had to set the boat there because it was carrying out wide. That's going to hurt him on the second lap.
Yeah, and he went 28.863, so he's sitting 4th out of 4 right now. I know that he's had some struggles with that composite craft throughout the rest of 2025. He's gotten banged into, he's gotten bumped into a few times, and so hopefully he can right it here on lap number 2 as he comes off of turn 4.
Well, he's got it sitting balanced well right there. Trim it down. Oh, he had that high off the corner.
Yeah, he did, but a 28.869, not good enough for the number 99 of Travis Yates to knock off the 29 of Jared Jensen as he's still sitting out on the course. But the man out on the water now out of Santa Rosa Valley, California, running for Incubex and Clover Construction, going way wide, just taking a page out of Johnny Fleming's book, going almost to the shore. I have a feeling that thing is going to be absolutely flying when he hits the start-finish line.
Spencer said the boat is running flawlessly today. He's got it at sea level, and that two-stroke is loving that.
Absolutely. He's always had a lot of success here in Texas. Can he do it again for the final round of 2025? He comes off of turns 1 and 2. Look at him trim out that boat.
You know, it's really difficult because these guys are trying to run big props, and then you got the short chute between 1 and 2 and kind of a long turn on 3 and 4. So it's really a balancing act for these guys to get a good lap time out of it.
Absolutely. As he comes across the start-finish line, Spencer Love moves to 3rd, 28.050. He's still got to find some speed, but boy, it looks like he really lost a lot of speed down there in turns 3 and 4 on that opening lap, Tim.
I think he might have went a little too big on his qualifying prop for this, but let's see how lap 2 is. He's going tight into 3, a little wider in 4, and airing it out, coming back to short front straightaway to the finish line.
As he crosses the start-finish line, he goes up to 27.757, good enough to second position here in fast lap qualifiers. Not enough to knock off the 29 of Jared Jensen, but a much better lap there on lap 2. And as we got our next boat out on the water, young driver running for Captain Mark Seafood, the number 13 at Grand Schubert. Tim, why is the wheel or propeller so important here in these fast lap qualifiers?
You know, on these Formula One boats, the prop is your transmission, your suspension, and your tire compound all built into one thing. So there are different angles on the rake, there are different angles on the blade for the pitch, and if you go too big on the pitch, then it can be top end and not enough low end.
And it looks like we might have missed the trigger there on that opening lap by the 13 at Grant Schubert. All right, let's see what's going to happen to the 13 at Grant Schubert.
Airs it out big time off of 4.
As he crosses the start-finish line, looks like we're going to have to refer back to our manual scoring there for the 13 at Grant Schubert. Looks like his transponder might have failed him out there on his fast lap qualifier, but we do have backup and secondary systems that make sure that all of our drivers get their lap times.
Here you go, Dylan Anderson swinging it wide, coming in for a straight shot down the front stretch.
Are you surprised the 4-stroke package for Anderson Marine and Anderson Racing versus the 2-stroke?
I'm not. He has had this Apex 250 running fantastic this year.
He has.
And you can see it right now. He has figured out how to make that thing accelerate, and that's what you need on this course.
Oh, absolutely. And he's, and the other thing is the turning on that thing is so different. You have to completely retrain your brain for the four-stroke. And he's done a really good job, especially considering he's toggled between them both as he crosses the start-finish line. Will we have a new leader? Yes, we do, ladies and gentlemen. 26.394 for the driver out of Nashville, Tennessee, in that Anderson Marine-sponsored machine. Can he beat his own fast lap? He's already on the pole, but he knows he's got some hard chargers coming behind him, doesn't he, Tim?
Well, his Hoffman boat has a wide tunnel in it, so he's able to run a big prop and still carry it with acceleration with that big wide tunnel, getting a lot of air underneath the boat.
Can he beat his 26.394? No, he does not. So the 26.394, the new lap to beat is the 29 of Jared Jensen, moves down to second. The 24 of Spencer Love and that Incubex machine goes down to third. And rounding out the top four, the number 9 of Johnny Fleming. And out on the water now is the man they call Get Out of My Way, the number 8 of Jeremiah Mayo and that Ray Bob seasoning-sponsored machine as he crosses the start-finish line. Now this kid can be scary fast sometimes, can he, Tim?
He sure can. He's a very aggressive driver. He likes to turn it hard. So you're going to see him go in very deep before the corner and set the boat. He takes that, and he takes 3 and 4 and turns it into one corner. A little bit different strategy. I kind of like it on the first lap.
Let's see what happens here as he crosses the start-finish line. Not enough to knock off our leader, 27.652. That kicks the 24 of Spencer Love down to fourth.
You're going to see some jockeying back and forth between these top four. They're fighting for a championship. Why shouldn't they be fighting for pole?
Oh, absolutely, especially if you're the 8 of Jeremiah Mail or the 17 of Dylan Anderson, because both those guys know they're going to have to secure the top spot in our main event later on tomorrow if they go on a chance to take over that title championship fight.
Well, what would really be critical is who's on pole for this, and then who does the best in the second heat.
Absolutely, that reverse order of finish, flipping that script, because for those of you just joining us for the first time, in our qualifying, we do fast lap qualifiers. That sets our starting lineup for the first qualifying heat as we see the man running for Evolution Markets and Rinker's Boat World, the 52 of Chris Rinker out there absolutely screaming in the boat he calls Pearl, the boat that's carried him into this point in 2025, and he's looking to put a bow on it with the horse that brought him here as he comes ripping down the back straightaway.
Chris has got a lot of experience. The last time that we ran the Formula Ones here was 2022. And if you remember, Chris was out front and lapping his teammate, and there was a little miscommunication in there, and Chris ended up on his head. So he's got something to prove this weekend, not only for the championship, but also for vendetta against this course.
Absolutely. 26.478 on Rinker's opening lap. Good enough for third right now. He knows he's got to do better than that. Can he fix it here on lap number 2 as he walks it out of turn number 4, puts it on its tail? 110, 115, 120 miles an hour as he crosses the start-finish line, but no, not enough. 26.478. And the 29 of Jared Jensen still hanging on to that second spot as we are down to our last driver here in Fast Lap qualifiers, your defending champion, and the man out in front in points without a win here this year.
You know, he's been Mr. Consistency this year. He has been running up front all year. He's won some heat races, which gives him that good starting position. But, you know, he has a prop that really accelerates. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, running for Turtlebox here at the final round of 2025. Turtlebox speaker is a fantastic speaker as he goes down into turn 1. Boy, a nice run off of turn 2 there as well.
He had to set the boat early into the wind. This wind swirls around here, so as soon as you get past the start-finish line, the wind picks up that last quarter of a straightaway, and he had to set the boat down before that. I think he's going to be relying on a second run.
Yeah, I agree. As he comes across, 26.611, good enough to kick the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo down to 5th, but only in 4th place. You got to think this is going to be his redemption lap, and he's probably very happy that he does have a second lap to go.
He's really got the boat freed up. I think he took some weight out of the front, and it's making it a little bit hard for him to run it into the wind.
He's a different style as well, coming out of 3 and 4 on both laps. Can he improve on his opening lap speed? No, he does not. 26-6-1-1. So, ladies and gentlemen, the man sitting in fourth in points coming into the final round of 2025 was able to knock off the rest of the field with a lap time sub 26.5 seconds and finds himself on pole for our opening qualifying heat later in the Formula One class. Boy, hey, talk about a guy who's trying to cover up for that one stupid mistake at the beginning of the year, and he's laying it all on the line, giving it everything he's got here. What a great run by the 17 of Dylan Anderson.
Talked to Dylan last night, and he knows that he can only come out here, give it his best effort, do as good as he can do, and where the chips fall, they fall. So the other competitors, whatever they do, Dylan's going to go out, and his goal is to win this race. That technical infraction at the beginning of the year really hurt him in the points because he got no points at that first race. I've had some people ask me, why isn't he in the lead? Well, that's why.
Yeah.
Because he didn't get any points in the first race. The other thing about this timed race is the fact that we do a timed race similar to motocross because then we can have different length race courses.
Right.
If we go to a straight, hey, it's a 30-lap final, then you got to have a course that's similar because of the fuel tanks in the boat. We go to a timed race, so that way we can have a long course, we can have a short course. Right here, this is your Bristol, Tennessee of boat racing.
That's a little donut course out there on the San Jacinto
It's a
River.
short track. That's right. And we haven't run on one of those all year. So this is a little bit of a curveball for the boys this weekend.
And it's going to make cornering and getting in and out of the turns so much more important here for this final race.
Well, not only that, but you're never going to be out of traffic.
Right.
You're going to be in traffic all the time on this course. And what traffic does is it messes you up. All of a sudden, you can't take that line you want. You can't be in lane 1. All of a sudden, you got to be in lane 3 or 4 because guess what? They're racing on for position as well. So when a leader comes up on them and they're racing for position, guess what? They keep racing, and the leader has to figure out how to navigate past them safely.
I have a feeling that this isn't going to be a game of checkers out there here to wrap up the 2025 season. It is going to be a very dynamic and very aggressive game of chess as these guys are going to be playing those games with one another. And obviously you played those games better than almost anybody throughout your career. What is it like out there? Give us a bit of a driver's perspective of that game of cat and mouse, as it were, when you get into that battle with another driver as you're trying to get around him, whether it's a back marker or you're just battling for position on the lead lap.
So that's a very good question. What some of these guys are going to do is they are going to go small on props. Their race, they're figuring from the start dock to the first turn.
Right.
So if they can jump the guy in front of them off the dock and they can beat him down to the first turn, then that is that's half the race for them.
Right.
The other thing is you got to think about it. You run top end 2 times on this course. That's it. You're only reaching top end twice on the long straightaways. So you're coming out of 4 corners. You're accelerating 4 times on this course. So you got to have punch. Now, the guy that does, it depends where you're starting. So let's say like Dylan Anderson. He's got the luxury of maybe having just a hair bigger prop because he's starting on pole. And if he's able to get to the first turn and lead that first lap, then he can control the pace. He can control the race then from up front. If you're behind, you're not controlling the race.
No.
So it'll be interesting which way these guys go, and we're about to find that out. But before that, we're going to see what Formula Lights.
Absolutely, our first qualifying heat here in Formula Lights. For those of you joining us for the first time here in 2025 or the first time ever, what is a Formula Light? Well, it is similar to a Formula One, but it's a little bit smaller, and it's got a much smaller motor package on the back. These boats, it will eclipse speeds of in excess of 80 miles an hour, but you're looking at a 13.5, 14-foot tunnel hull with a...
About 70.
Is it really?
Yeah.
The boat's only 7 foot long?
No. The boats are about 14 foot long.
Oh, okay.
They run about 70.
Oh, I got you. All righty. Well, hey, don't fault an announcer for maybe padding things up a little bit. But
Hey, we don't want facts getting in the way of a good story.
exactly, right? But these 14-foot long tunnel holes run 45 cubic inch, 2-cylinder OMC Evan Reuter Johnson outboards. Now, the future, as you were running around here earlier, may be a different package. We're looking at different things like the APX 60 brought out by Mercury. But for now, these have been a tried and true standard in Formula Lights here in the United States for the past 35, 40-odd years?
Oh, yeah. The class has been around a long, long time. Thanks to Seaway Marine, we still have parts for these motors. And it is a great training ground for drivers. And it's actually, some of them say they're more difficult to drive than a Formula One because you have no horsepower. You have no horsepower to get the air under the tunnel.
Right.
So it's all about finesse.
Absolutely, yeah. You really, and I've talked to numerous Formula One drivers that have said, boy, I mean, how I had to wheel a boat and really learn how to turn it and set it and use the trim properly.
Well, what you can't do is you can't just slam it down when you go into the corner because on a 45 with no horsepower, you got to have corner speed. And that is why we're seeing Shelby Love's boat, the new Hoffman. That thing just sits up a lot higher in the corners and carries a lot of corner speed. If you carry corner speed, you can run a bigger prop because then you can get it to accelerate.
Absolutely, and we've seen that number 12 of Shelby Love running for Bright Lake Lucy and Clover Construction here at the final round of 2025. She's been fantastic. If it weren't for, again, some things that her and her family had to deal with here throughout the 2025 season, I think that Mark Schmierbach would probably not be looking down at the 12 of Shelby Love, 58 points behind him, but he would definitely be looking to try to track her down. And I know that she's got one thing on her mind. That young woman is looking to go wire to wire, and I wouldn't be surprised if her goal was to win every heat the entire weekend, because if she can do that, she very well might call herself the 2025 Formula One Powerboat Championship Series Formula Lights champion.
What she's got to do is she's got to be smart. She has got to put herself in the position to win heat races, win the final, and wherever Mark finishes is wherever Mark's going to finish. She's got to do her job,
right,
and that is to win everything there is this weekend in the Formula Lights class.
And it's not like she hasn't ever experienced that or she hasn't pulled that off before. We've seen her really do some damage in race weekends. Yeah, fast laps. And how about her ability, even when she's in second place chasing for 50%, 75% of the race, her intestinal fortitude to just stick with it and stick with the game plan. I can imagine a great job by her radio team just keeping her in the zone, as we've seen her on numerous occasions, all the way down to even the final few corners on the final lap. She's been able to move from second to first.
So we've got the starting order now for the Formula Lights. Shelby is on pole. Mark, how many championships has Mark won? Multi-time national
He's got a couple
champion,
just in our series alone.
Champion, Hall of Champions. He's starting in third or second, and Jose Madonna Jr. starting third.
Yeah,
Man, this is going to be a battle, and Jose didn't make all the races this year. They're coming back strong next year to come to all of it with at least 2 boats, maybe 3 at some races. So
yeah, I chatted with his brother Carlos, and he was like, "Hey man, I just wanted to let you know I got capsule trained. I don't know what to tell you, but
that's right.
it is what it is."
He
but the
told me
Mendonas,
last night, but that's going to throw a little wrench in there for Shelby and Mark.
especially if he can get himself between the two of them, right, or ahead of either of them, because again, they haven't raced with him at every
or ahead
race.
Of both of them.
Yeah, and now they got to figure out how does this guy run? How does he race? That's one of the tricky things where, obviously we have drivers travel from all over the country. Not every driver can make every race, and so sometimes you'll see those drivers that aren't at every single race catch the racers who've been here all year off guard with their driving style, and I think they better watch out for the 26 of Mendana.
Well, if Jose is good off the beach, which he normally is, and he pulls them down to the first turn, and then you see Shelby and Mark second and third, okay, now whoever's in second, they're trying to pass for first, but they also have to keep third behind them. So it's going to be a little, hey, I'll be inside for a couple laps, then you'll have to go outside. So you're really going to see some different strategies there, depending on how they come off the start dock.
Absolutely, and this is a short course for Formula Lights, just like it is for Formula One. So again, that there's going to be battles all over the race course, right? So even if you get out in front, if you think you're going to have clean water for numerous laps out here, that's just not going to be the case, especially considering the depth of the field here at the Battle on the San Jacinto.
Well, you got Jake.
Jake
no,
McKee.
That's Schubert. Isn't it 01?
No, 01 is Jake McKee.
Jake and Brandon.
Yep.
So that'll be a dogfight right there.
And then the young rookie, the 30 of Ashton Caffarelli, the young driver out of Illinois, really turned some heads. I think if it weren't for him getting caught up in some other wrecks that he didn't necessarily cause, or racing incidents that he ended up getting on maybe the short end of the stick for, he would probably be a lot higher up in points. Then we've got the 2 of Travis Thompson there right behind the 60 of Brandon Bobalik. He's going to be starting 7th. Right behind him, that's the 8 of Jack Schubert, because we had 2 number 2s here this week. So he moved over to number 8. He's going to be 8th off the start dock. Then the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster, and rounding out the field, the 93 of J.B. Jensen. His second race in a Formula Light, and that red, white, and blue Island Lake Marine machine, that thing has won a lot of races. So he's got a good boat. He's just still getting comfortable because he's used to not being able to see and being blinded by the bouncing around in a Texas Tri-Hull. Now he's got to refine those skills a little bit behind the wheel of a Formula Light.
We do, and we've got a lot of different types of races. We've got people racing for the championships. We have some people that are just getting ready for next year. We've got some people that are just getting experience because they're new to the sport. So we'll have to see how all this plays out. It's going to be a great race.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of one of those, another addition to the Rinker Racing family, the 52 of Addison Dumford out of Tennessee, another part of that ever-expanding Rinker clan that has been a force in boat racing for multiple decades in numerous different classes. You look at like Chris Rinker, I believe in 1986 or 1988, he won a junior class in a very small little, I believe it was like mini cat class. And now he's in a Formula One. He's got both of his sons running Tri-Hull. We got Addison in a Formula Light. We saw Terry Robb and Ashton Rinker, another part of the Rinker faction, be very successful on our series for numerous years. Great to see another addition to the Rinker clan here running in that bright yellow. No surprise, a Rinker with a yellow boat, but excited for him to be out here as he's done really well and continued to grow race over race, as this is his 3rd race with us here on his rookie season.
He's been progressing. He gets better and better at every event we go to. He has been really good about keeping his nose clean, so...
And that's the biggest thing as a rookie, right? Just not getting yourself into situations that you don't know how.
In a bad position.
Because you don't know what to do, right? Again, you haven't had enough laps behind the wheel of the boat to understand necessarily how to navigate some of those dicey situations. So very smart that he's kept himself out of those. And then the one man who I'm surprised is starting last off the start pontoon, and that's because he had a motor failure during qualifying, but he looks like he's got it fixed. And that's the driver out of Santa Fe, Texas, the number 17 of Chris Hughes. We've seen Chris on the podium numerous times in the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series in Formula Light, so watch out for that blue and white machine coming from last off the dock.
Always a threat.
Absolutely. So we've got so many boats here that we're going to be doing a 2-flag start. For those of you just joining us for the first time this year or the first time ever, we run modified Le Mans start in both our Formula Lights and our Formula One class. Well, what does that mean? If you look at Formula One car racing, they run a Le Mans start, and they have that because they have a gearbox with shifters, so they can have the car on and in neutral. Well, a race boat does not have a gearbox. There is no neutral. There is no first gear, second gear, third gear. So these boats will start completely shut off. No power to the boat whatsoever. We're going to start at a minute, down to all the way 20 seconds. Once we kick it over to our starter, flag goes up, they drop it, they take off the dock. There is no more exciting start in all of motorsports.
There isn't, and we're going to see, we've got some gates built, so it gives drivers lanes to go in. So you've got the first 5 will go on one side of the gate, and then the second 5 on the other side of the gate. The second flag, they do the same thing. So, with this modified Le Mans start, You got the 1 minute gun. Tommy, you'll count it down. Once they get to 20 seconds, flag goes up in the boat, and they can drop that flag at any time.
Anytime.
It
Absolutely.
lasts 20 seconds.
And let's be honest, the gates are there because if we left these drivers to their own devices, they'd probably be all stacked up on top of one another hundreds of feet before they even got to the first turn. Oh, no, looks like the 8 of Jack Schubert having some issues with that Clover Construction Formula. It looks like he's bringing it to the trailer. That's got to be frustrating for the young driver out of Richmond. Only in his second race in Formula Lights from stepping up, now pulling double duty, also running tri-hull. He's got to be frustrated, but it looks like he's still got power. So the real question is what's going on with the back of that Formula. It looks like he might be having some steering issues, or no, he might have some water, taking on some water in that boat.
Yeah, I'm not sure. John, his dad, is looking at it right now, and they're going to see if they can get that thing repaired so he can make the start.
And it looks like if it's
Jack's learning in the Formula Lights class, second event, and he did very good in Windsor. I know he likes it down here better because it's at sea level, so he's got a little more horsepower, and that's always good.
Yeah, especially when you're running a 2-cylinder, 45 cubic inch motor on the back of your race boat. Not a very big motor. I mean, these are your standard, tiller boat type motors that you'll see on your 16-foot Lund type.
The base block is the same, but then you've got a racing midsection, racing propeller, racing gear case. So there's nothing real stock about that.
No, there's definitely
motor,
I've definitely met numerous people that are like, hey, I have that same boat motor on my boat. How come I only go 25 or 30 miles an hour? Well, and that's exactly why. These things are tuned to the moon to get every ounce of power out of those OMC power heads. And again, the Formula Lights class here in 2025 brought to you by Seaway Marine, our Formula Light sponsor for numerous years, the great Jacomoto up in Seattle. Again, the Seaway Marine, your one-stop boat motor shop. Check them out online at seawaymarine.com. All right, looks like we've got them almost ready to go, and it looks like the 8 of Jack Schubert was able to get it fired. The question is he going to maintain his position, or are they going to kick him to the back of the dock?
I'm sure at this point he'll have to go to the end of the dock. We'll see what the officials do down there, just because everybody else has already been lined up.
Oh, no, and it looks like he's pulling it back into the trailer. I don't know. It looks like they're putting it on the trailer. He might be done for this opening qualifying heat. It's got to be frustrated when you got to put it back on the trailer before you even get to run a lap.
Oh, it does. You're so excited to get to that first heat and get everything rolling for the weekend. And when you got to put it on the trailer, it just lets the air out of your balloon.
Absolutely. And, we got a story developing right now. We're going to turn things down to our pit reporter, Kay Myers, as she's got a story on the number 2 with Travis Thompson. All right, looks like, we had some technical difficulties with the microphone on our pit reporter, Kay Myers, down there. She was hoping to give us a little bit more in-depth on the 2 of Travis Thompson. Good to see the 2 of Travis Thompson back here in 2025, but I notice I don't see him out there on the starting grid. What happened to the number 2? He finished with a fantastic, he was in the top 7, but I don't see him out there behind the 30 of Ashton Caffarelli, that gap between him and the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster. So it looks like the 2 of Travis Thompson is going to have to scratch. Boy, I don't know if I've met a driver that runs into more issues than the 2 of Travis Thompson. Looks like we've got things fixed, so we're going to send things down as she'll give us more on the story of the number 2 of Travis Thompson. Take it away, Kate.
All right, yes. Unfortunately, we saw some gremlins hit the Thompson crew, but, they have worked so hard just to try and get that boat back on the water after a really bad accident at the beginning of the season. But that team is very confident they'll be back out for the next heat. We're hoping to see Travis Thompson at number 2 get that water issue figured out and out on the water. Thomas, back to you.
All right, well, hopefully they can get things dialed back in, but got to be frustrated, does the number 2 of Travis Thompson. Same with the number 8 of Jack Schubert, as he's on the ramp, trying to drain some water. Now, all right, it looks like the 2 of Travis Thompson's backing it into the water.
Right.
Boy, talk about at the final moment, finally getting it all figured out.
Yeah, they did a major repair on that boat, and it could have had something to do with that. I know I talked to his dad, Dave, earlier, and he spent 3 weeks fixing the boat, and then last week it was fixing motors. So those guys have worked their tail off to be able to come and participate this weekend. They're true racers. They do it as a family, and those guys are as good as gold.
Absolutely, and it's a local race for him as well, the native of Humboldt, Texas, just down the road. I know he wanted to get in the water and get it rolling, and it looks like he's going to be able to pull that off. And we've also got another boat out there on the start pontoon. I know that a rookie, her first race here ever on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series or anywhere in a Formula Lights, the number 1 of Carissa Saddle out there getting a pink and white Moore French-built Formula Light hull, running it through its paces, see if she can't get some good lap speeds out there in her first race ever here in Formula Lights.
There's only one way that you can get better, progress in the sport of powerboat racing, and that's seat time.
Absolutely.
So she'll go out there and she'll stay wide to the outside, and she's just learning how the boat handles. So this will be very important for her.
Absolutely, and unlike motocross or car racing, where there are these closed design tracks that you can go rent time, or they provide opportunities for you to do testing, a little bit more difficult in powerboat racing because very few people have access to their own private lake or private body of water that allows them to test. Now, thankfully, great places like here at the Baytown Boat Club, just off of I-10 east of Houston. We do have a bit more of that down here than maybe most of the other places. So hopefully this is going to give her some really good seat time in that number 1 Clover construction machine. But it looks like the problems continue for the 2 of Travis Thompson, as he's now sitting about 15 feet off the boat ramp and is unable to get that OMC Johnson fired on the back of that number 2 Formula Light.
Man, they're just having problems after problems, which is not uncommon once you have to go back through and rebuild the boat. So hopefully they can use today to get those gremlins worked out, so that way they can come back bigger, better, stronger for tomorrow.
Yeah, you can tell they're pretty dejected is the number 2 of Travis Thompson as he sits there floating out into the river. And we're going to have Jet Ski Jared come on in. And there you'll see the 8 of Jack Schubert. He gets all that water drained out, and he's back ready to roll. Now, obviously, that number 8 machine has been run through its paces. It's got multiple colors on it, and so maybe a crack showing in that older hull, starting to take on a little bit water just from him sitting out here so long.
It could, and think about the guys that are already lined up. So all it takes is a hiccup off the dock. Those motors are cold now.
Yep.
They're not fresh off a warm-up lap, so this is really going to be a nail-biter for these guys.
And it looks like the 8 of Jack Schubert, he thought he was going to be able to get his position. They're like, no, buddy. You go to the back of the dock. You made us wait. You made all these other drivers sit inside these carbon fiber cockpits, which I can imagine are extremely warm when you get, the weather like we do down here in southeast Texas. I mean, we're going to be under 90 this weekend, which is a miracle. But still, mid to high 80s, sitting in an all carbon cell has got to be a sweat factory inside that cockpit.
It gets warm inside there. Fortunately, they've all got their canopies open, which helps. But you'll get warm in there, and the warmer you are, the easier it is to get fatigued. So
that's when those little errors come in, right?
It sure does. That's what makes a difference.
And we see the 26 of Jose Mendaña Jr., the Tampa Terror, running for Mike Scott Plumbing. He's holding the lid open, trying to get some extra breathing air inside that cockpit just to try to keep himself cool, calm, and collected, as we are moments away from action here in the Formula Lights opening heat here at the final round of the 2025 Formula One Powerboat Championship Series season. All right, test flag, that orange flag going up for those of you here locally. That's going to be that is the test flag, so our drivers will know where that starter is on the race course, so they can keep an eye on that flag, because as soon as he moves it, they're going to get underway. Coming up on the 1-minute gun.
So Carissa Saddle is going to start from the pit dock. So what they're going to do is they're going to start all the other boats. Since she hasn't done a start yet, they're going to let them all go by, and then they're going to file her in at the back.
Here we go. 1 minute drivers, 1 minute as the lids close on these Formula Light tunnel hulls. The 12 of Shelby Love on the pole. Can she go wire to wire and take step 1 of 4 here this weekend to try to claim a championship? 50 seconds, drivers, 50 seconds. Or will it be the man from Greenfield, Wisconsin, running for Pizza Inn, 35 of Mark Schmierbach, who sits second off the dock? Can he come out like a rocket? 40 seconds, drivers, 40 seconds. Then it's the 21 of Jose Mendana Jr. You can't ever count out the man from Tampa running for Mike Scott's Plumbing. 30 seconds, drivers, 30 seconds. Then it's the California native, the 01 of Jake McKee, the 60 of Brandon Bobolic, and the 30 of Ashton Caffarelli. Let's see who's going to take heat 1. 20 seconds, drivers, you're under starters orders. The flag is up.
Looks like they all got off the beach.
All right, as we get them off the dock, let's hear a good jump there by the 35 of Schmierbach. But you notice they're bouncing there. They're sharing so much air. That can be real tricky coming through the middle of the course down to turn 3.
Well, they are, and hopefully he leaves a lane there.
Oh, no, the 52. Oh, no, the 52 of Addison Dumford lost his dock pole and did not fire off the start. But look at the 12 of Shelby Love. She goes side by side with the 35 of Mark Schmierbach. They got it aired out, but boy, Schmierbach looks like he's got a really good prop, and he is flying. Oh, look out there. Shelby Love goes through the rooster tail.
Shelby couldn't set the boat into the wind, and she had to end up going through Mark's rooster tail.
But that's okay for Shelby Love. She doesn't mind sitting in second for 95% of the race. As long as she can stay within the catbird seat.
She can't give up any points to the number 35, because if she gives up a heat race win, that could potentially give him the championship.
Oh boy, as the 01 of Carissa Saddle gets out on the course, the 35 of Schmierbach out in front, the 01 of Jake McKee getting by the 26 of Mendana. How surprising is that?
He got a great start. You know, Jake, this is his second race with us on the national level. Windsor was his first, did a great job, and you see he's getting his legs now.
Absolutely, as they go down into the far end of the course. There's the 01 of Jake McKee sitting in third, but he all over him. Look at Mendana getting squirrely coming out of turn number 4. As he crosses through the wake there, you got to imagine the 26 of Mendana's got to be very frustrated with the start there. That's very uncharacteristic out of the driver from Tampa, Florida, and he's going to be pushing that thing to the limit to try to get by the 01 of Jake McKee and find that final spot on the podium.
Well, Jose's going outside on the long straightaways, so that way he can do a high-low, go from outside to inside, which he just does right now, and shortens up the corner.
Absolutely, but now he's going to run into the 93 of J.B. Jensen and the 52 of Addison Dumford as they go down there into turn number 1. Coming off one now, there's Schmierbach on the inside. Jensen's going to leave him a lane, and that's got to be frustrating for the 12 of Shelby Love, because now she has no clean lane to run in, and that's the last thing she wants to see.
She's going to be in all the prop wash, but guess what? And when you're in second like that, it really is easier to pass some of the back markers.
Absolutely.
Because the guy in first, he makes the hole, and you just follow him through.
Yeah, I mean, being second in boat racing as you get through back markers is kind of like drafting in car racing, right? The other person's having to poke the hole in the air, so you can find some ways around. When you're the second person through the back markers, some of those have already moved over, and you can kind of scoot into a free lane that was opened up by the leader.
That's right, but unlike car racing, you cannot draft in powerboat racing. The rooster tails make it very difficult. So this is a fluid course. It changes every lap with the wind, with the waves. So every time you go around the course, it is a new course, literally.
And look at here, no surprise, the 12 of Shelby Love has already crept up to the 35 of Mark Schmierbach. She did a much better job between the 12 of Love and the 35 of Schmierbach. I can imagine she's really going to want to kind of sit in that catbird seat till they come up on maybe some of those other back markers and use that as another opportunity to pounce on the man out in front, the 35 of Mark Schmierbach.
Mark's a very experienced racer, so he knows what line Shelby wants to run, and what he's going to do, he's going to control the race. He's going to be running her line. He's going to be running where she wants to go, and that's going to make her have to switch her game plan.
Oh, absolutely. But she has also been a real thorn in his side here in 2025. You look all the way back to the opening round. Looks like the 17 of Chris Hughes down on power. He's pulling off the race course. But on the 2 of the last 4 turns on the final lap, she kind of did a little head fake. Mark thought she was going outside. Then she dove down underneath and ran it all the way to the finish. So he knows that while he may think he has her laps down, it seems like there's always been a wild card that the 12 of Shelby Love's been able to throw in there.
Well, you're going to have lap drivers in there as well. So the more drivers they lap, the faster those drivers are when they get up to them. So as they keep going through it, it's going to be tougher and tougher for them to lap these racers.
Oh, absolutely. As the 12 of Shelby Love continues to push, now she has to go all the way down into lane 1 as 2, 3, and 4 were all taken up by the 35 of Schmierbach and those back markers that they were looking to get around. Now she goes wide out of turn number 3. And here's the battle for 3rd and 4th. And the 26 of Mendana got by the 01 and Jake McKee. That's probably some experience right there because the 01 of Jake McKee still young in his career. The 26 of Mendana, a very decorated Formula Lights driver in his own right. And he's now back up into that 3rd position. But he's got a long way to go if he wants to catch the 12 of Shelby Love.
Great move getting by him. Let's see how Jake reacts now. It's the hunted becomes the hunter as he tries to run down Jose.
Absolutely. Now our leader, the 35 of Mark Schmierbach, comes off of turn number 4, gets by the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster in that silver and purple and orange trim Formula Light. Now the 12 of Shelby Love in the corner. That's got to be the worst place to try to get around a back marker, Tim, is in the corner there, especially as we saw the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster go way wide and make her have to go even further around this 4-pin Formula Lights course.
Well, you saw coming out of number 4, Mark Schmierbach, very experienced, used Marshall, number 78, as a pick. So he went over there to him, and Shelby had to go around the outside, the long route. And you saw she lost some time, but she comes storming back.
Absolutely, as they're down in the north end of the course there, now down through turn 1, out of turn number 2, and the 12 of Shelby Love is back all over the 35 of Mark Schmierbach. There's the white flag is out. White flag is out. Go fast. Turn left just one more time. Can we have a battle here in the final 2 turns at 12 of Shelby Love?
Oh,
she hooks it tight to the inside.
She partially spun it out.
Boy, she was prying it. She was pushing it to the limit, and she went right over the line.
She's got it aired out. She was not giving up, and that's why she has been able to make those last lap passes, just not today, and that is huge for the number 35 of Mark Schmierbach and his championship hopes.
Absolutely. The 35 of Mark Schmierbach, after a great jump off the dock in second position, going wire to wire after the opening lap, and he's able to run away from the rest of the field. Well, not necessarily run away, but the 12 of Shelby Love finishing in second. The 26 of Jose Mendana Jr. finishing in third. The 01 of Jake McKee in fourth. The 30 of Ashton Caffarelli moves up to fifth. 60 of Brandon Mobalik there in sixth position. The 78 of Marshall Gildermaster in seventh, followed by the 8 of Jack Schubert. The 93 of J.B. Jensen. The 10 of Addison Dumford. And then rounding out the field here in 11th, the 17 of Chris Hughes, followed by the number 2 of Travis Thompson, and rounding out the field, the young rookie in her first race ever, the number 1 of Carissa Saddle.
Hey, big shout out to Carissa. She got through the first heat of her career, and
I got to say, she looked pretty good down the straightaways. Obviously, turning is the real tricky part in any boat racing endeavor, but she looked really fast, and she was able to lean into it down the straightaways. Now she's just got to get those turning figured out.
She looks comfortable down the straightaways, and it's one thing being out there by yourself, running down the straightaway, going through the corners. Put all the boats around you with a good field of Formula Lights here this weekend in Highlands. Baytown Boat Club is a perfect setting for the Formula Lights.
Absolutely it is. And the 35 of Mark Schmierbach's got to be very, very happy because he knew he had to get the 12 of Shelby Love behind him. He was probably frustrated with the fact that she got him on the fast lap qualifiers earlier this morning. But, boy, what a great run there down to the first pin. And once he got out in front, like you said, he's a hard guy to get behind with all that experience.
Coming back into the wind down this front straightaway, you saw the mid-range that Mark had on Shelby. So he pulled a boat length or two on her, and that was all he needed.
You would definitely gain ground in the corners, but again, on this short 4-pin course here in Formula Lights, that mid-range, like you were saying earlier, so important in all the classes, especially the tunnel boat classes, both Formula Light and Formula One. And that, again, it always gave him just enough room that she couldn't get up into that overtake conversation in the corners at all, and was always having to try to jockey for a position. Again, a veteran move by the 35 of Mark Schmierbach. All right, well, coming up next, on the water here on Saturday's qualifying at the 6th and final round of the 2025 Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. We call them bumper boats at 65 miles an hour. They are the Texas Tri-Hulls. You're going to see these 1970s Glastron copied bottoms. Again, that tri-hull is very indicative of what the bottom of the boat looks like. It has 3 points on the bottom, but 2 channels that allow air to lift the boat up out of the water a little bit. Running 2 different motor packages here, just like we do in Formula One. We've got the traditional 100 cubic inch OMC, and we've got also the new Pro XS Mercury 4-stroke on the back of, a growing number of participants here in the Texas Tri-Hull, because I think, one, the durability, right? Because these guys beat the snot out of themselves in every other way. The last thing you need to do is have motor problems as well.
The Tri-Hulls take such a pounding. I mean, the equipment, the engine, the boat, the driver. I mean, I don't know how these guys walk after they get out of some of these Tri-Hull races. But you're right. You know how you win a championship? By getting points every single time your boat gets on the water. There's been years where we had champions that never won a race. You know, Dustin
but second,
Terry
third,
this
and
year.
fourth.
Exactly.
Every
Second,
single
thirds,
race.
Seconds and thirds, and then get a heat race win here and there. So you've got a 3-way championship battle going on right now in Tri-Hull. Grant Schubert, Tanner Rinker, who's been on a roll.
Wow, has he?
And then Neil Marsh. You know, Neil's no stranger to how you win championships.
No, I mean, he's going for the 4-peat, and he's still got a chance to do it, and that's what he drove all the way down to Michigan with one goal in mind, and that was to make it a 4-peat champion coming back to the great state of Michigan.
That's right. You know, Bay City, Michigan to Highlands, Texas is a long drive.
Yeah, honestly, I think that he probably drove further than Aiden Benton, who came from Ontario. If those of you down here in the southeast, the large majority of the state of Michigan is actually further north latitudinally than Toronto, Windsor Metro. And so it's funny to see a guy from Michigan traveled further than a guy from Canada. But that was the case. And they don't, and it's a get in the truck at 5 o'clock and go all the way. But it looks like right now, hopefully we're going to have a word here with our champion, Mark Schmierbach, from the opening heat. But, yeah, the 17 of Neil Marsh is going to be in a dogfight with the other 2 drivers. Tanner Rinker, again, on a tear. He's won 3 races in a row. All right, we'll turn it down to our pit reporter, Kay Myers. She's with our winner from heat number 1 in Formula Lights, the 35 of Mark Schmierbach. Kay?
What a great way to start this weekend. You know, Mark, you've done so well year after year, but this weekend we have a full fleet of our Formula Lights, and you use that back traffic to your advantage to keep Shelby Love in your back corner.
Well, she has to get through it, too, and there were a lot of back markers back there, but boy, what a race. I mean, she really gave me a run.
Well, you guys started off side by side, deck to deck, going down into this first turn, and then you gave her a wall of water, which made her have to back off, and you never looked back.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I thought I left her enough room there. That, it was all good racing, I think.
Well, the chase continues with our Formula Lights between Mark Schmierbach and Shelby Love. Mark Schmierbach collected another checkered flag right here at Bay City.
All right, that was our pit reporter, Kay Myers, down there with the 35 of Mark Schmierbach in a fantastic run. He got out in front, coming second off the dock. He beat everybody the first turn, and on this short 4-pin course here, about a third of a mile, the man from Greenfield, Wisconsin, running for B&B Racing. And Pizza Inn, again, Pizza Inn out of Port Neches, Texas, some of the best pizza you'll find. So if you're find yourself in Port Neches, Texas, or in Beaumont, make the drive down. The great folks at Pizza Inn. Again, you see we got our Texas Tri-Hulls out on the water as they're ready to do battle on their 2-pin course here on the shores of the San Jacinto River.
We got a huge field of tri-hulls this weekend. So
yeah, we do. I was just about to get into that. I think we've got, and this is what happens where you come back to the birthplace of Texas tri-hull, right? This class was tested and proven right here on the San Jacinto River, probably about 20 years, 15 years ago now?
This is where it started.
Right here.
Right here.
So no surprise that we see our largest field in Texas tri-hull to wrap up the 2025 season. We even got the likes of J.B. Jensen to make his way down from Colorado. We've got the 17 of Neil Marsh from Michigan, a whole host of drivers from Texas, as well as a few from Louisiana. And speaking of that, the 03 of Austin Terry, the rookie here, you talk about a beating they take. If you have a chance, you're here locally, go into the pits and find that gray and blue 03, and you'll see what we were talking about. I mean, that boat is not that old, and it looks like it's been thrashed year after year after year. I mean, there you can see fiberglass at parts of the boat. It's taking a beating.
They're not scared to bump each other.
No, they're not.
That's part of it in this class.
Especially considering his father, our defending Formula One champion, Dustin Terry, cut his teeth in boat racing in the same exact class. He's got a wealth of knowledge to lean on, and I wouldn't be surprised if his dad's also like, hey, listen, bud, if they get in your way, you can always just hit them and move them out of the way.
Yep. We've got two guys in the F1 class, Chris Rinker and Dustin Terry. They're fighting for the championship. They came out of the tri-hull class.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Grant Schubert, right? He's in the top 5, finished in third, had his best finish of the season last year. He came from Texas tri-hull. Jeremiah Mayo has won numerous tri-hull races and I believe a tri-hull championship. So really, we've kind of found a secondary path to the Formula One class. A little bit, maybe odd when you first look at it. But Formula Lights is the normal one, and now we've got this contingency of tri-hull drivers. And I personally think they're so comfortable because they're not getting their brains rattled nearly as hard as they do in a tri-hull. They're like, man, this is actually kind of easy. I actually can see what's going on, and not everything's not just a blur.
Yeah. Well, we're taking a few extra minutes because we have got some of the Formula Lights drivers are pulling double duty. So they raced Formula Lights and they're racing tri-hulls. So it's just taking us a few minutes to get those guys out, get them in their other boats so we can get them back on the course. So J.B. Jensen, I just saw him come out, which he's going to be in the tri-hull. And then Jack Schubert, he as well got pulled out. So he's making his way over there right now to the number 12 Ace Hardware boat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. That's become the norm these days. Like racing just one class isn't good enough for a lot of these young drivers. But hey, you know what? While they're young and they've got that extra energy, you might as well put it to good use. And they're out there running multiple classes, and it seems like they're grinning ear to ear and loving every second of it.
Well, they're having a fantastic time. The other thing it's doing for them is all of a sudden it's speeding up their experience and
that learning curve,
seat time. So they're spending less time, less years, getting the experience and learning about these boats. So these guys are on the fast track.
Absolutely. When I think that's been, not only yourself, but all the other individuals here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. I think, like you said earlier, there is no substitute in boat racing for seat time. And so, right, you do the math. Well, if I can get more laps, even if it's in maybe, a couple of different classes, it just gives you such a better feel, Tim. I can imagine after the decades of powerboat racing, between your butt and your hands, like you could be blindfolded and you could know exactly kind of what the boat's going to do or what the water is like just from so many laps behind the wheel.
And that's right. When you first start out, you're trying to figure it out. What's it feel like when the boat is the right attitude? Is it too high? What's that feel like? If it's too low? So when they start out, they'll use a trim gauge so they can kind of tell where the motor is and confirm what they're feeling. But then after they get to a point, it becomes secondary, and you might use that for the start, and you don't even use a trim gauge for anything else.
Yeah.
So you're just driving by the seat of your pants, and you got the steering wheel. You'll notice on a lot of these boats, not the tri-hull, but the Formula Lights, Formula One, they run cable steering. Well, the reason you run that cable steering, you may or may not have a electric power steering unit in there, but it gives you the feedback so you can feel the boat. So you know what the boat's doing, how it feels, how it makes you comfortable.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen here as we've got a three-way battle for the season championships in Texas Tri-Hole. We'll be right back with more racing after a word from our sponsors. All right, I guess a word here from... All right, so it looks like we're actually here in just a moment going to be able to have a chance to chat with the young woman who's sitting in that second position in Formula Lights and chasing down the 35 of Mark Schmierbach. Let's send it down to our pit reporter, Kay Myers, as she's with the 12 of Shelby Love.
Well, that was one heck of a run, once again, between you and Mark Schmierbach. But tell us what happened in Turn 1. I noticed that he gave you a little bit of a wash down going into Turn 1.
Yeah, just all good racing. He wanted it, and we're going back and forth, and he has to do what he has to do to keep me away, and it was a good race. It was fun.
It was a good battle, but unfortunately you also had some issues going into Turn 2. Tell us what happened in Turn 2 when you got a little loose.
Just get a little airy with the boat being so wide and trying to push it as hard as you can, trying to trim down as least you can't have to. So, sometimes you just get a little flighty.
Well, you've done a wonderful job this year. You're sitting in second place for the High Point Champions, sitting in a second place for your first heat of the day. Any plans to make any changes to be able to get in front of Mark Schmierbach for the next heat?
We'll see. Got to take a look at everything, see what we think we can do. But it's hard. He's really good and knows what he has to do to get faster, and we're still struggling to keep pushing to get to where he's at.
Well, the struggle is real, but you have paid it off throughout this whole season. You were doing a wonderful job. Our lone female out here in the Formula Lights. Back to you, Thomas.
All right, race fans. Well, the 12 of Shelby Love is looking to give it everything she's got. We'll be right back after this with a word from our sponsors. All right, looks like with that interview, we might be staying with our field here in the Texas Trial. Looks like, the 54 of Darren Ware, the man they affectionately call Caddy, as he is a custom Cadillac restoration specialist. But the 54 of Darren Ware's got the helmet off. Looks like the 54 boat's going to be pulling it back onto the trailer. And it looks like we've got everybody else ready to go for our opening heat here in Texas Tri-Hall.
Looks like head referee Doug Ray is looking over the course, make sure everything's ready, and he's telling them, hey, let's get this party started.
Absolutely. As we're going to, again, Texas Tri-Hole a little bit different than the rest of our classes here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. No modified Le Mans start, 2x2, rolling staggered start for our Texas Tri-Hole. And let's take a look at our starting lineup here in this opening heat of Texas Tri-Hole. Is on the inside of row one. He just jumped out of a Formula Light. Now he's back in his normal spot in his Texas Tri-Hole, the 93 of J.B. Jensen. And we remember last time he did this in Colorado, he went wire to wire.
He is as good as anybody when he's out front.
That he is. He's still got to learn a little bit how to get through traffic, but that takes a while in Texas Tri-Hole.
It does, and that's where the experience come in. But look at just them taking that one straightaway. Look at the water already.
And they're getting him all the way down to the long ends. Let's take a look at the rest of our starting lineup here again on the inside of row one, the 93 of J.B. Jensen. Running for Island Lake Marine on the outside of row one. That's the young driver out of Richmond, Texas, running for Plantation Ace Hardware, the number 12 of Jack Schubert. On the inside of row two, Diamond Z Reynolds on the side, yellow and black, the number 42 of Wyatt Zeller.
Well, he's got the new four-stroke on there now, too. So
yeah.
Those guys have switched their program up.
Yeah, we'll see if that's going to give them the extra punch they need here this weekend, but he's probably also going to have to relearn how to drive a Tri-Hole with the four-stroke. Yeah, look at how bounced and that's from their own wakes.
Oh, yeah.
Those are from their own wakes. And he drops the green flag, and here we go. We're underway in Texas Tri-Hole. The 12 of Jack Schubert, he's on the outside. The 93 of J.B. Jensen moves him out a little wider to get himself some breathing room on that first pin. This is so crucial here in Texas Tri-Hole. Can you get out of the first turn and find some clean water?
Tri-Hole traffic jam.
Oh, no, what happened to Neil Marsh? He is way back in the pack. And that is not what he wants to see sitting in third place in the season standings. Look at there, the 13 of Grant Shoot. No, that's the 88 of Josh Wells, the 99 of Devin Brown. They get together down in turn number 2 at the far end of the course. There's the 13 of Grant Schubert. He's still got some ground to make up, and then popping into view there. That's the John Deere Green, the number 33 of John Ottinger. But boy, you're right, Tim. Boy, JB Jensen likes to get out in front. If he can, once he figures out how to run through traffic, he is going to be a dangerous driver behind the wheel of a Texas Tri-Hole.
And he's got some fast boats right behind him too. So I don't see them catching him right at the moment.
We got a spin out down there and turn number 2.
Number 10.
Ooh, that was Tanner Rinker. No, excuse me. That was the 88 of Josh Wells that spun out. Tanner Rinker's now all the way up into second. The tear continues for the young driver from Spring, Texas. This kid is on a mission. Ever since the round 1 where the whole family had to step away due to a family emergency, he has just put nose to the grindstone. Oh, no, and the 99 of Devin Brown goes between the buoys. 99 of Devin Brown. What's his name? Richard Boatman. Oh, no, looks like we're going to have to.
They're going to have a red flag here.
Oh, there we go. Red flag on the course. Red flag on the course. The 99 of Devin Brown. You know, I hadn't ever seen that in my entire life in boat racing. Now I've seen it twice in 2 years. You remember the DD1 of Andy Miller did it last year in Windsor, Colorado. And look at that 99 of Devin Brown. Hey, you know what? He may get dinged, but at least he's not going to have to pay a fine.
He couldn't see where he was going because there were so many boats parked in the corner.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that happens, right? When you're forced to turn really hard, these Texas Tri-Holes do not like that tight turn. They really like a nice, broad, sweeping turn. And all it takes is one driver to have a rough corner, and, boy, they can really wad up on top of each other, can't they, Tim?
So the Tri-Hole cornering is all finesse with the throttle. You know, if you don't use the trim as much on a Tri-Hole as you do on the Formula Lights or the Formula One boats, but it's a lot with the throttle control. So when you're coming up to the corner and you've got to make that thing dive on the inside, that's feathering the throttle.
Absolutely. And maybe that's why we've seen such a successful transition for some of those Tri-Hole drivers moving into the Formula One and Formula Light classes is, again, they've had to learn how to kind of wheel and feel the boat. And that feel isn't something that you can just, read a book on. You have to go through it. You have to learn it by doing it. And you definitely see that translate quite well, the likes of some of our Formula One drivers who've had a ton of success here in Texas Tri-Hole as well.
Got to gain the experience.
Now they got to figure out how to get that thing off. Looks like
without dislodging the buoys. So
right, exactly. Well, while they get that thing fixed, we're going to send things down to our pit reporter, Kay Myers, as she's with one of our drivers down here at the pits at the 2025 Battle on the San Jacinto.
Well, you were just talking about how we never see Neil Marsh start so late when, unfortunately, a power head change yesterday or this morning has now bit the bullet. So they're going to be bringing that back in, possibly making another power head change, going back in, seeing if they can get it back out on the water. It's an unfortunate thing for Neil Marsh as he's sitting fourth in the standings. Now we're going to have to see where he's going to finish up for the rest of the season. Thomas?
All right, thanks, Kay. There's the 17 zooming in on Neil Marsh. How surprised were you, Tim, that he didn't come off the start like he normally does? Clearly some struggling, and that's got to be a very frustrating way to start his final race of 2025 as he tries to come from third all the way back to try to claim his fourth straight championship here in Texas Tri-Hole.
He's had some engine problems earlier this year. Got them sorted out at the last event in Windsor.
Fantastic
He goes out
run.
and wins the final. So,
at 5,000 plus feet with a two-stroke motor that he had to tune the jets on. Correct. The only place, the place he should have had more trouble than anything, he figured it out, and now here again, he's back on the schneid, frustrated. He's got to be here in the opening heat.
This is the first heat, so he's got a great team behind him. Those guys work diligently on the number 17, so don't worry. You haven't seen the last of Neil yet. He'll come back around.
Absolutely. All right, while we get everybody lined back up and get those buoys fixed here again, it might be a little while out. You see, they finally cut him loose. They had to cut the buoy there, and they're going to have to retie that. So we're going to have a few minutes. Notice the boat is now floating on the water. It is no longer sitting being held up by two large, lovely yellow buoys. And so they're going to have to get those buoys retied. We're going to have to get everybody lined back up for a restart here in our opening heat. We'll be right back with more racing here in Texas Tri-Hole at the final round of the 2025 season here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. JH Performance Boats. Custom-made, classic, shallow water boats built from scratch, offering a direct and personalized experience from start to finish. They provide exceptional service and support, having an unmatched reputation while paying close attention to detail with quality construction, expert knowledge, and outstanding performance. Mercury Racing, proud to introduce the Apex platform of engines and the 250 APX competition outboard to Formula One Powerboat Championship Racing. This new 4.6-liter V8 model offers added torque and acceleration to take race teams to the next level. Let's welcome Mercury Racing 250 APX to the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. Moto Marketing Group, accelerating brands for over 35 years. From developing some of the most famous boat and race team graphics that look fast to websites that run fast. Moto Marketing Group is your one-stop marketing shop for branding, vehicle wraps, websites, photography, and print design. They do it all professionally for a great price. Check them out online at motomarketinggroup.com.
Racing Communications. They're radios for racing.
Seaway Marine, the Formula Light sponsor here in 2025 on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series, operates out of a 62,000 square foot warehouse that is packed with current OEM parts, aftermarket parts, and vintage hard-to-find parts. They ship over 100,000 packages all over the United States, providing same-day shipping on in-stock orders. Seaway staff is arguably the most knowledgeable in the industry. With decades of experience, Seaway prides itself in excellent customer service. Make Seaway Marine your first call or text for all your marine part needs. 425-412-4006 or online at seawaymarine.com. Seabold Sports, world champion powerboat racing since 1939. Find more on the legendary Seabold family at seaboldsports.com. VP Racing Fuels, the official fuel of the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. VP Racing Fuels has been the fuel choice of champions for decades. Now you can benefit from VP's expanded line of performance additives for your boat, daily driver, or weekend warrior. Learn more about their ultramarine and explore VP's full product line at vpracingfuels.com.
From an early age, we race. It's part of who we are. It's in our DNA. For some, the need to keep pushing fuels our lives. At VP Racing, we pour everything we have into creating the industry's best products. For those who put it all on the line, whether it's the track or the trail or wherever you race, they say you can't win them all, but you can sure as hell try. VP Racing. Win every race.
All right, welcome back, race fans. Here as we've got the 99 of Devin Brown dislodged from between the two buoys. Again, still can't believe that it happened. I've never seen that happen in my entire career, and I've been around boat racing.
He was on top of him. You don't see that every day.
No, I mean, I've been coming to boat races since I was probably, 3-4 months old. I believe my first race, actually, so it would have been more like 6 or 7 months old, was down at your home race in St. Louis, Missouri, back in the day, as they say at George Winter Park. Probably one of the greatest race sites I've ever been to. Man, was that fun back in the day. But I've never seen a boat land on top of the buoys. Now we've had it twice in 2 years.
Well, hey, we've got the rescue guys have replaced the buoys that they needed, tied them back together, and we have got the lineup, and we are getting ready to start this thing.
Before we get back underway, our pit reporter, Kay Myers, is down there with crew chief for the 17 of Neil Marsh. See what happened there on that initial start. Kay?
Unfortunately, Neil Marsh was having some motor issues. We thought he was done for the day. He came into the pits, made a little conversation with you, and then went back out. What did he say to you?
Pretty much, we're going to stay out there, get our points. We'll come back in for next feet, fix everything. We'll be back. We'll be good.
All right, well, that's a pretty confident saying. So some points are better than none. Sitting in third with only a 10-point difference between him and the other. He's going to do so good out there. So keep an eye on that Neil Marsh. We're going to see if he can finish this race without blowing the rest of that motor out.
All right, boy, looks like we found out what's going on with the 17 of Neil Marsh, but maybe he pushed that motor a little too hard at 5,000-plus feet just about a month ago. But, again, he's going to give it everything he's got here as we're ready to rock and roll for this restart as they're lined up 2 by 2 on their order that they were when the previous lap completed. As Jet Ski Jared, the Pace Jet Ski here, a part of our sport rescue team, the best rescue team in the business in Formula One Powerboat racing here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. He's going to lead them down
It's not as rough this time coming up this front straightaway.
I have a feeling they went a little quicker down the backstretch, not allow those rollers to catch them.
Because
all right,
it's not
jet ski
nearly
Jared
as rough.
pulls off the race course. We're waiting for green
And they're
flag.
off.
There it goes. He drops the green flag. Now here's the 10 of Tanner Rinker is loving this because now he's got some of that clean water as he goes side by side with the 93 of J.B. Jensen. 4 strokes on the back of those. Oh, look at the 12 of Jack Schubert. He goes, no, that's the 1 of Corey Walker. He went way wide to the outside. And coming up the inside, the 13 of Grant Schubert and the 88 of Josh Wells looking to make some moves here in the opening qualifying heat. And boy, you see the 17 of Neil Marsh limping on half of a motor way back off the pace, but trying to collect some points because as his crew chief said, some are better than none.
Some points are better than none for the championship, but I'll tell you who's got their work cut out for him is, number 13.
Yeah, he's side by side with the 42 of Wyatt Zeller in that Diamond Z Reynolds machine, and he's got to go way wide to the outside. Boy, he has been forced to the outside multiple times here early on in this 7-lap qualifying heat here in Texas Tri-Hole. We've got 4 laps remaining. Can the 10 of Tanner Rinker get by the 93 of J.B. Jensen? I don't know what happened on the backstretch. They were side by side, but J.B. just pulled away down the backstretch.
JB's running good. And then Grant passed 2 in the corner down here in turn 1, so he's inching his way forward little by little.
Oh, no, the 10 of Tanner Rinker spins out down in turn 1, and he's gets shuffled all the way back to 4th. Watch out there as boats dodging him all over
Grant
the place.
got around him.
The 1 of Corey Walker as well as the 69 of Cole Waring, too, starting to make some moves up there. They are all over the place here in Texas Tri-Holes. The only man who seems like he's got it under control and cruising is the man out in front, the 93 of J.B. Jensen.
Tanner and Grant have a history of running into each other, and right now they're not only first and second in the championship, but they're running side by side. So
Absolutely.
Who knows how this is going to go.
Well, you know the 10 of Tanner Rinker right now, hey, you made a mistake, but it didn't allow the 13 of Grant Schubert to get by you. But now here he might. As he goes down into turn number 1, he dives hard down into turn 1, and they're side by side down the back straightaway. We'll go overhead there with the 10 of Tanner Rinker on the outside, the 13 of Grant Schubert on the inside there. But look at that wash that the 13 of Grant Schubert took, and that allowed the 10 of Tanner Rinker to just get off room. Oh, no, and he spins out down in the corner.
Tanner spun out and T-boned Grant. That
Wow.
was not intentional, but wow.
That you can tell right there he was pushing it to the limit. As we're on the final lap here, white flag is out for the man from Colorado. Can he go wire to wire here in heat number 1 as he's down to the south end of the course? Cruising down through turn number 2, goes wide off of turn 2, slamming all over the place as the water gets rough here on the San Jacinto and Texas Tri-Hole. But ladies and gentlemen, as he comes down across the start-finish line, let me hear you put your hands together. Your winner of the opening qualifying heat here in Texas Tri-Hole, number 93,
right.
J.B.
Good job, JB.
Jensen. And how about this? In second place with that brand new 4-stroke on the back, the 42 of Wyatt Zeller, the 1 of Corey Walker in 3rd, the 69 of Cole Waring in 4th, the 13 of Grant Schubert in 5th, and then the 10 of Tanner Rinker in 6th.
And Grant did what he needed to do.
Because he
got the only guy that he needed to pass on the course.
Yep, and you could tell he was pushing Tanner to the limit, and Tanner knew he couldn't let the 13 of Schubert get around him, and that's when he just pushed it a little too hard in the corner. Like you said, this is all about finesse and feathering the throttle. He came in there hammer down, and he spun out, T-boned the 13 of Grant Schubert, but he had lost so much speed that Schubert just walked him out of the corner.
You know, for Tanner, it's now or never. You know,
Absolutely.
There's not another heat that he's got to beat him every single time in order to win this championship. So you're going to see these guys drive aggressively because this is their season.
Absolutely. There's nothing left. There's no next race.
On the line. It all comes down to this
Absolutely.
weekend.
You know what? I'm really surprised that the 26 of Briston Sherman was so far back off the pace. He's really been a consistent driver. He's in that top 5. We saw the 69 of Cole Waring. He finished up there in 4th just outside the podium, but all the way back in like 7th or 8th. We saw the 26 of Briston Sherman, the Tri-Hole entry of that Ray Bob seasonings sponsor here for the Outlaw F1 team, and he's got his work cut out for him as well as the 17 of Neil Marsh, because it looks like that motor finally went kaput about halfway through, but at least he collected some points instead of none, but he just made a tall order taller for him and the rest of that Marsh racing team, as they're going to have to now quickly go back to the pits and try to find a way to swap out a power head, and hopefully that thing is at the pace that he needs to try to compete here through the rest of qualifying in Texas Tri-Hole.
Yeah, Neil's team, they're going to be thrashing in between these heats. They'll have to run, another heat today.
Yep.
So they have got to get back out there. They've got his trailer going in the water right now, so they can try and cut down some of the time while the Formula One boats start going in the water.
Absolutely, and that is right. Coming up next, the Formula Ones are going to be back out on the water for their first qualifying heat. We did have our fast lap qualifiers earlier today that saw the 17 of Dylan Anderson get out in front.
Well, look at the front of Tanner's boat, which is actually his grandpa, Scary Jerry's boat that he took over halfway through the season, I believe, in Alton. And then he just went on a winning spree after that. But the nose is, smashed in a little bit after that Grant Schubert
It's a good
incident
thing the
with
nose of these Texas Tri-Hulls ride as high as they do in comparison to the Formula Lights or the Formula One. And look at the motor cowling for the 13 of Grant Schubert. That might be some of the carnage that from that incident with the 10 of Tanner Rinker.
He's checking his steering right now to see if it was just the motor cowling that got damaged or if he's got other mechanical problems with the steering.
All right, well, looks like our pit reporter, Kay Myers, is down there, and we're just all right, she's down there with our winner from qualifying heat number 1, the man who went wire to wire here in the opening heat of Texas Tri-Hull, the 93 of J.B. Jensen. Kay? All right, looks like they're having some audio issues there with the microphone down on the start dock with our pit reporter, Kay Myers, in the 93 of J.B. Jensen. All right, looks like we're going to kick it back to him now as she's with the winner from qualifying heat number 1.
All right, we had a great win in Windsor, Colorado, and you continued that win right here in Highlands, Texas. You didn't just win it, you won it by a big factor this weekend.
Yeah, when you're up there, you're a little scared because you wonder how close everybody is. I got some open water, and that makes all the difference in this class.
Well, how were you feeling when we had that restart? Because the first part, you were already way ahead, but then you had the restart. Did that give you like a little bit of a mindset of, hey, you know what, I got to do this twice in a row?
Oh, yeah, it's a reset, and you get real scared, thinking of all the possibilities. You just got to lock in and make that first turn, and hopefully you can open up after that.
Well, he did. He locked it in with a checkered flag and the first of our Tri-Hulls. Thomas, back to you.
Thanks, Kay. The 93 of J.B. Jensen looking to make his mark, but now he's going to have to, in the next heat, like we're going to see in Formula Lights later, and we'll see after this first Formula One heat, we're going to flip that script. First goes to worst goes to first, and that's really I think the greatest and most unique thing about our series is there is no other form of racing that I'm aware of that says, hey, if you won your first qualifying heat, now let's see what you do starting last off the dock. Well, you have to showcase the multifaceted skill set that's needed to really be a champion. And I know that you and John Schubert, in creation of this series, I think that was a big part of it. Can you give us a little bit of insight as to why you chose to break the mold and go with a different type of format that forces these drivers to drive through the field?
Well, you've seen it year in, year out, and it's what we don't want is we don't want follow the leader. We want passing out on the water, and this is, as much as it is a race for the racers, it also is a show for the fans, whether they're here in person or they're watching live. So we want to make sure that we have passing opportunities because it makes for a better show. But I loved JB's, game plan, which is, he was out front and he's running scared.
Hey, at the end of the day, you could find yourself in a position where the difference between you being on the inside of row 1 in Texas Trial and the outside of row 1 will go down to that elapsed time over your qualifying heat. So you can't sit on your laurels even if you have a big lead, because you could then find yourself not in the position that you want by just a second or two because you didn't decide to push it as hard as you could while you were out front.
Clock's always ticking, so position is one thing, but elapsed time is the tiebreaker.
Absolutely, and we've seen it numerous times on the series where that tiebreaker comes into play. a driver gets a first and a third, and then a first and a third and a second, and the other driver gets a first, third, and a second, so they have the same amount of points. And now it goes, well, who went around the course the fastest? And it's not just their best heat; it's all 3 heats combined. So that total elapsed time between all 3 heats, and that's where you have to be on the razor's edge the entire time, because if you let off the gas for just a second, that might cost you a half a second or a second, and that could cost you pole position.
Well, that shows you just because you get out front, just because you got a lead in front of the guy behind you, you can't just sit there. You got to roll. You got to go forward.
Absolutely. It really forces the driver to press the issue, right? They've really got to force and really push it to the limit at all times. In every form of motorsport racing and any other form of motorsport racing, you've seen that they'll get out in front and the guys will back off a little bit. You see this in Formula One car racing. They'll get out and they'll push everybody back and slow the pace down. Well, that would never happen here on our series, because
in the final is the only time you've got that luxury in our race format.
Absolutely, and by that point, you've earned the right to dictate the pace if you're the driver out front, because you got out front early, you ran through the pack again, because the third qualifying heat isn't the total of amassed points, it's still reverse order of finish. So, if you still have a ton of points, you've got to go not only through the back of the pack once, but you got to do it twice. But it does 2 things. One, it gives that driver a ton of confidence, because if you can drive through the field and collect some really good points in all 3 qualifying heats, I've got the whole tool bag ready to rock and roll. I've got the top end speed, I've got the cornering, I can get through traffic, I can run fast out front, and that complete package is such a great way to showcase and really separate the cream from the crop, the cream of the crop from everybody else. And it really but it also forces the drivers to not just go, I'm going to spend a bunch of money and go get a fast boat and try to go as fast as I can while I'm out front. You still have to learn all those skills, and that's what's so great about the format here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series.
It teaches our drivers the craft of racing.
Absolutely.
So whether you're racing boats, motorcycles, cars, you have to have the craft of racing. You have to know how to race and knowing how to pass. So, we've had one of our drivers, Rusty Wyatt, go over to Europe, and it really benefited him by the race format that we run, because he knows how to pass people.
Absolutely, and not only how to pass, but when to pass, right? Just because you can get up on the side of somebody and try to push them in the corner doesn't mean that's going to be what's best for you after that corner. And so not only do they know how to get around other drivers, they go, you know what? Maybe I'm going to give it next lap, right? Not this time, because the conditions aren't right. And again, there's so many, the competitive nature of our drivers and how tight the competition is here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. If you make a good pass at the wrong time, it can still cost you the position that you were looking for.
That's correct. And you have to, that's where the experience comes in, because you got to know when to pull the trigger, when not to. And you also have lap traffic, so you're seeing that you're coming up. And the experience also of how your competitors drive. So
absolutely.
This is not so you got to know if the guy you're coming up on, does he hug the buoys or does he run a wider line?
Absolutely.
And if you're fighting position with someone, you're going to use that to your advantage at some point.
Absolutely. And it's funny, like you talk about that. I think of, who's the epitome of somebody who went pin to pin, and I envision the 72 of Lynn Simberger. Lynn loved to go tight way around the course. Maybe he was a little bit of a bigger guy like myself in stature, so you didn't want to lengthen out a course a little bit, but he loved to go pin to pin. Yep. But you always knew where Lynn was going to go in the corner.
Exactly. There was no question where he was going to be. And as another driver, you got to know that about your competitors, because my dad said this a long time ago. You have to know what that driver in front of you is going to do before he knows what he's going to do.
Right, and that just comes with, again, seat time and laps in competition against these fellow drivers. And let's talk about that. You make the statement, you've got to know what the other driver's going to do before he does it. How far out as a driver, and it may vary, but for you, how far out are you looking, using your radio personnel and your team on the radio to give you information so that you maybe go wide out of a turn because you know the guy you're coming up on that you might catch the next lap likes to run tight, so you want a clean line to catch him as quick. Walk us through a little bit of that mentality when you're planning out the race course as you're going 100-plus miles an hour.
So the first thing you have to do is you got to catch up to them.
Fair.
Right? Okay, and I know catching up to them is one thing, passing them is another.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times where we're at, you might have to just stay on their outside hip, but you've got to be right on their outside hip. And then you might have to wait for a pick off of lap traffic, or you might have to wait for one of the corners that gets rough or a tight corner. So that way you can go outside, kind of go high-low and dive underneath them and then get side by side with them before you get to the next spin. Because if not, whoever's in front has overlap and they're in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. And talk to us a little bit about what, for those out there that don't really know when you say the term overlap, right, that's very important in tunnel boat racing because we don't, again, like car racing where they have these like curved, we do there's a lot of squaring and sharp 90-degree turns that happen in tunnel boat racing, and that overlap is not an important safety rule, right, but it also, it sounds like it's a big part of that chess match that you're playing out there with your competitors.
It is. The unique things about powerboat racing is the water changes, the wind changes the water. So you might have a wave, a bump in turn 4, and then it's coming down the straightaway, and then it ends up in turn 1. So you've got to take that into consideration. You also have the rooster tails, so you can't draft them, you can't side draft them, because if you get right next to a boat and one of them dumps the air off it, it's going to blow over, or both of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw that in Windsor, Colorado with the 93 of RJ West getting together with his teammate. They touched the 92 of Dean Comer, dumped the air. The 93 of RJ West went over. And it's one of those things that once Mother Nature and the lift of the air takes over,
you're off the other boat.
You're just going for a ride.
And it's something that, in that particular case, that was something that neither one of them wanted to do, right?
No, absolutely.
But that's just how the boat got upset, and that's what happened. So we do want to give a shout out to RJ.
Absolutely.
We are glad, RJ, that you are getting better and you're getting healthy, and we know that you'll come back stronger and better than ever.
Absolutely, and he's got a great support system with the rest of the West family, the Chuck Skelton Racing team.
Racing, fabulous team. They're one of our top teams, and they've been champions in all different classes. So we want to make sure that they recognize that we're thinking about him.
Absolutely, he's forever on our minds ever since the moment that happened. But right now, we're going to turn it down to our pit reporter, Kay Myers, and she's got a report about the 52 Chris Rinker and his Formula One aspirations. Can he be a title contender and win a championship here in 25? Kay?
It's going to be a big feat for them to be able to do that. I went down to check out the boat, and it is basically separated from the nose all the way back to here. You can see an inch and a half worth of a gap, but that team is working furiously, slamming it back together, and you know what? If you're a boat racer, you've got it in your trailer. That big roll of duct tape just came out. They're going to bring it out, try and get that covered up, and bring it back out on the water, because Tanner Rinker, he ain't going to go down easy when it comes to Rinker Boat World. Thomas?
All right, well, it looks like I was talking about the wrong Rinker there, but there's so many of these darn Rinkers when you get to a Formula One Powerboat Championship Series race. It's hard to keep them straight, but you saw they were talking about some of the damage sustained on the number 10 of Tanner Rinker as he T-boned the 13 of Grant Schubert. We saw there's some motor damage on the back of Schubert. They're bringing that boat back into the pits to try to get it fixed while he hops into his Formula One. We've got just a couple of boats left to back into the water, and we're going to get underway with our first of 3 qualifying heats, 2 today, 1 tomorrow, here in the Formula One class. The fast lap qualifier saw the 17 of Dylan Anderson go fastest lap around this 4-pin Formula One course here on the San Jacinto River, followed by the 29 of Jared Jensen. And I'm still just stunned at how well this young driver has come back from a pretty horrific blowover at our opening round in Port Neches. Friday testing, trying to dial in that Hoffman, and he sent it sky high, broke the boat in half, had to miss the next round. Acquired that teal and white hull with Island Lake Marine on the side now, and since then you have just seen his competitive spirit and his mojo out on the race course just continue to ratchet up every race. It seems like it's at a new level.
Well, he is learning. He comes from a racing family. His dad John raced. His uncle Scott raced. His uncle Scott's his crew chief. So. And then Amy, his mom, kind of keeps the whole team together. So, and they've got Todd Fitchin coming over to help from Greg Foster's team back in the day. And then Ronnie Brown's dad, also raced. So
a lot of experience there.
You've got a huge support team behind him. And that is really shown, hey, he is making good moves. Let's hope that he has got a successful weekend. He is getting better and better, and we love to see him grow like this.
Absolutely. And hey, I got to say, I heard that John Jensen actually stepped back in and did some testing this morning in that backup hull for his son. And I got to say, he looked pretty good out there considering it's been a while since he's been out in a Formula One boat. I know he was a competitive driver back in his day, but who knows? Maybe we'll see John Jensen back in with the Jensens having a two-boat team in 26.
Maybe. And that would be fun to see John back out there, We raced together for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And had a lot of good races together. But
there were some really good ones up at the original track up there in Windsor at the Pelican Lakes Golf Course. I remember numerous ones, although when I wasn't golfing, because thankfully the great folks at Water Valley allowed me and my brother at about 13, 14 years old to basically take golf carts and have carte blanche on the golf course. So it was watched you and all the other guys.
They stopped that right after you guys did it.
Correct. They were like, hey, man, this last weekend, these two kids, we just
get these kids out of here.
Is this their private golf course? What is going on? But no, there was. I love that with the island in the middle back in the day, racing around that island.
Was the original lake. And,
yeah.
Martin and his staff over at Water Valley, they have been supporters of boat racing for years and years and years, and we appreciate them.
And just like we see in boat racing, right, now we're seeing boat racing promotion move to the next generation as his son is really taking the lead role with that Roar of the Rockies that was round 5 here on the 2025 schedule. We don't know what stop it's going to be in 2026. There's a lot of great things in the mix here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series. I know we've got some potential race sites here, checking out what's going on at the Baytown Boat Club. I know there's lots of workings in the background, but you've got to be excited as we wrap up 2025, as we look into the future for what 2026 is going to look like.
Yeah, we're very excited about 2026. We've got some things that we are chomping at the bit to finalize and be able to announce, but I think we're going to have our schedule out probably within a month.
Which is huge, right? I mean, that's the hardest thing in racing is everybody's chomping at the bit, and they want to have the maximum amount of time in the off season to prepare, because as we know in motorsports, right, your off season isn't necessarily that long all the time. And how excited do you have to feel to have that solidified schedule here? We'll talk about that when we get back, but right now we're going to turn things back down to our pit reporter, Kay Myers, with another report from here at the Battle on the San Jacinto.
As you notice, all of our Formula Ones are starting to line up on that start deck, but we are missing one boat. That is the number 9 of Johnny Fleming. I went over to the Fleming crew and I asked, where aren't you guys getting ready? And he pointed out that the bottom of the boat is starting to delaminate. Still some issues from the wreck that he had in Colorado. But they are working hard, and you know what? We've talked about this numerous times before. These guys work together not only with their own team, but with others. Anderson's team is already over there ready to help them out. There's going to be 2 teams working on that boat, and we're going to be seeing Johnny Anderson coming out soon.
All right, that was Kay Myers down in the pits as she's going to be reporting all weekend long here. Looks like we've got most of the drivers lined up and ready to rock and roll. Here is the 98 of Aiden Benton's getting on the start pontoon, and then our final driver, the 99 of Travis Yates, will round out the field here, and we're going to get underway here in just a few moments. Again, modified Lamaze start here in Formula One. Boy, Tim, this is going to be a doozy. How squirrely do you think things are going to get down there in that opening turn as they cut through the middle of the course at 100-plus miles an hour?
It's going to be interesting because you look at the lineup right now, and everybody talks about do we have parity with our engine program, right? So what do you got? 4-stroke, 2-stroke, 2-stroke, 4-stroke. So
and a couple more 2-strokes. Yeah, absolutely. You know? And at the end of the day, like it or not, right, racing changes over time. We've seen it. I know you're also, besides being one of the most decorated tunnel boat racers in the history of tunnel boat racing, I know you also have been a big proponent of motocross racing, and they had that switch at one point, moving from the 2-stroke to the 4-stroke. Ours has been maybe a little bit more delayed than some of the other series. However, it's going to happen, right? We're going to run out of parts on these old 2-strokes have been around.
Change is hard.
It's super hard. It's the hardest thing for a human to do.
And not everybody wants it. But here's the way I look at it, and my partner John Schubert, we look at it as we either change or we die.
Amen.
And we're changing, and we're going forward. The only thing we want to know is, are you all coming with us?
Right, absolutely. I mean, and that's what has to happen, right? You may not like it.
It has to.
But that's what has to happen over time.
It's got to evolve.
Absolutely.
Gotta evolve.
All right, well, let's take a look at our starting lineup here in qualifying heat number 1. On the pole, the 17 of Dylan Anderson, followed by the 29 of Jared Jensen coming second off the dock. Then it's the 52 of Chris Rinker. The 1 of Dustin Terry, your points leader, fourth off the dock. Boy, that's going to make things interesting here in this opening qualifying heat, as he is 11 points ahead of the driver sitting in third, the 52 of Chris Rinker, coming into this first qualifying heat. Again, they get points in qualifying and the final, so every lap counts. Fifth off the start pontoon, the 13 of Grant Schubert. Then it's the 8 of Jeremiah, Get Out of My Way Mayo, in that Ray Bob sponsored entry, sixth. In seventh, very surprising, that Incubex sponsored number 24 of Spencer Love. Then the 98 of Aiden Benton and the 99 of Travis Yates, rounding out our field here in the Formula One class.
Well, make sure that number 24, keep an eye out on him, because he comes off the dock like a shot.
Absolutely, he does. And again, if you can gain a couple of spots and find some clean lane or some clean water, then you've got enough laps to try to work around some of those. And again, he doesn't need to necessarily win this heat, but if he can get himself up into second, third points, that's going to be huge, especially for that reverse order next heat.
So when you qualify down the order a little bit, the way you have to look at it is, I've got 3 heats to get to where I want to be.
Right.
Right? You don't have to do it in this one heat. So...
yeah, I mean, you can't finish first if you don't first finish, right? So, all right, looks like we're ready to go here. Oh, we're waiting on some rollers out on the course to come through. Again, we've got some pleasure boat traffic. Looks like they've stopped and gone, hey, let's watch this race from out on the water. We've got looks like some commercial traffic moving their way along the backside of the river, and that creates rollers. And while that's all fun and well and good in Texas Tri-Hall, it can be disastrous here in Formula One.
No, and the Formula One tunnel boats are very light. They're very agile, and they can handle a pretty good amount of wind waves. What you can't handle is a big boat wave.
Right.
Because
that deep V hull
just
puts
won't
a
get
monster.
Over it. They'll trip, you'll blow over, or you'll trip on it and stuff it.
Right, and stuffing it, would you say stuffing it's the most violent, worst type of wreck in Formula One boat racing?
That's the most abrupt stop.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You're going 110, and then all of a sudden you go to 0 in 20 feet.
Right.
That's a heck of a deceleration area.
Water is very hard and very, very unforgiving. Yeah. It's funny, a stat I looked up as I started doing my announcing stuff to try to kind of come up with things that are interesting. The human body will skip across the water at 26 miles an hour. That just tells you how hard water can be at speed. And when you push that into the triple digits, it can be very, very hard, especially you clip the wake off of a giant commercial boat.
Well, here's now we have all our drivers are strapped in. They all have neck restraints, because here's another thing. Your body can distort up to 6 inches. So when you take that kind of hit and you're belted in and your head's not, that's why you got to have these neck restraints.
Absolutely, yeah. The Hans device, I believe every single driver on the Formula One series runs a Hans device today.
Some variation of that.
Absolutely. I think we're on our way to where you'll see every driver wearing a Hans device because of again, those moments of disaster where you want to make sure the entire body, not just the torso and the lower body, but the head and neck as well. So important to make sure that they're all locked in. And these drivers, you can see there, the sun shining on the 17 of Dylan Anderson and that Anderson Marine Low Carb Performance Formula One. Can he go wire to wire? He's just like Shelby Love in the fact that he knows he has got to be out front. He's got to stay out front. And this is going to be a litmus test for him because this is where it's easy, but it's just going to get harder from here. All right, we're coming up on the 1 minute gun here in our opening qualifying heat. It looks like we're pointing out some rollers from some of the, and that's the other hard thing, right? We're on a public waterway. No race car driver ever has to worry about another car ripping around the back straight or just off the backstretch and causing havoc on the race course. But we have to deal with that here because pleasure boaters don't know. All right, 1 minute drivers, 1 minute on the pole. 17 of Dylan Anderson. He's going to shut the lid. Can he come off the dock like a rocket and run this thing wire to wire? That's what he needs to do. Can he pull it off? 50 seconds, drivers, 50 seconds. Or will the young gun out of Colorado sitting second off the dock surprise everybody and take his first heat win here in 2025? 40 seconds, drivers, 40 seconds. Then you got Chris, the real deal Rinker, 11 points back. And to his right is the man he's chasing. He's coming third. Can he be your winner here in Heat 1? 30 seconds, drivers, 30 seconds. Or will the defending champion, the man in that all-black Turtle Box-sponsored machine, be the man to take Heat 1? How about we find out how it's all going to shake out? 20 seconds, drivers. You're under starters orders. The flag is up. He drops the flag. Great jump there by the 29 of Jensen initially off the dock. And the 52 of Chris Rinker. Boy, this short course, those two strokes have just a slight advantage off the dock. Can the 29 of Jensen use it to his advantage? Oh, no, the 13 of Grant Schubert doesn't fire off the dock. Oh, no, the 29 of Jensen spins out. Was that the Jensen?
Half spun it there.
Yep, and here comes the 52 of Chris Rinker.
He's where he wants, but look at this. Chris Rinker. Right
Chris Rinker's where he wants to be as well. He doesn't necessarily need to beat Dylan Anderson. He just needs to keep the 01 of Dustin Terry behind him as they're 11 points apart coming into this qualifying heat.
This is a race for the championship. And
absolutely.
You've got 3 of the 4 boats in the first 3 spots. And Jeremiah's coming up as well.
Absolutely. Looks like also that Incubex machine of Spencer Love is continuing to push hard as he makes his way out of turn number 4. But we're going to stay here with the 29 of Jensen and the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo as they fight for 4th and 5th. But you see they're all over the 1 of Dustin Terry as well as he's the man sitting in 3rd. We got a battle 3rd, 4th, and 5th as the 1 of the 52 of Chris Rinker and our leader, the 17 of Dylan Anderson, start to pull away. There's the 01 of Dustin Terry. He came in 11 points up. Can he continue to push it hard and find a way to get by the 52 of Chris Rinker? Or can Rinker hang on to that second spot and close the gap even further here after this opening qualifying heat? Boy, I got to say, good job on 29 of Jared Jensen. He regrouped after that half spin down in the opening lap, he's really continuing to push the 01 of Dustin Terry.
He pulled out on Jeremiah a little bit. Jeremiah is running on the outside, which you can do on the back straightaway here, which sets you up better for turn 3 and 4.
And that's where you'll see guys, they'll want to dive in. And look at that, Jeremiah Mayo was like, hey, man.
Jeremiah's blowing it off the water. Jared skipped out down there. Jeremiah's got him, but he's running right into the wind there. Jeremiah likes to run it loose.
Yeah, he does. You
Leaves
remember
him a lane, though. And it's
absolutely.
So important to leave him that lane because you can make him bury the boat like Jeremiah just did to Jared, and you're still going to get around him because they lose all their corner speed.
Right, absolutely. As you can see there, Jensen's now going tight pin to pin, but the damage is done as the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo's moved up to the 4th. Now he's looking to track down his teammate in that turtle box machine, the 1 of Dustin Terry, and he's going to be pushing it to the limit. Yeah, you talk about 8 of Jeremiah Mayo running down the ragged edge. You remember a couple of years ago down in Port Neches, Texas for the opening round, I believe he won the race with no skeg on his gear case and only 3 of 4 blades on the prop, and he still somehow ran that boat without blowing it over a barrel roll in the corner.
Oh, we have spun out there. He needs to calm down a little bit. He needs to be smooth. But Jeremiah is on a tear right now. Dylan Anderson is stretching it out a little bit over Chris. He's got that 4-stroke running good. You see how he can get all the way down to the end of the straightaway, and then he just lays it over a little bit at the end, sets him up perfectly for the rough corner.
Absolutely, and I think you got to imagine that the team on the comms for the 52 of Chris Rinker are like, hey, man, listen, we're in a good spot, right? I know that you want to catch and you want to win every heat. Oh, no, what happened down there?
Jeremiah almost blew it over right where this wind swirls around.
Woo!
And it came down and chimed in on the right side, went across the course, collected it back, and somehow he still retained his position.
Yeah, hey, if nothing else, the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo will keep you on the edge of your seat because he is flying that thing like an airplane. But that's what the 29 of Jared Jensen now back in the conversation. Now Jeremiah Mayo's got to shift his focus from the 01 of Dustin Terry to making sure the 29 of Jared Jensen doesn't climb up on him and move up for one more position.
I don't think Jeremiah's looking behind him whatsoever. He's looking at his teammate, number 1 of Dustin Terry, and that's where his efforts focus.
Absolutely. There's the 52 of Chris Rinker, sweeping it beautifully out of turns 3 and 4. He puts it back on its tail. He's continuing to try to track down that man right now who's out in front, the 17 of Dylan Anderson, as he starts to climb up on the number 99 of Travis Yates as they continue to push hard down the back straightaway, the 17 of Dylan Anderson. And this is the point, if you remember last time we were here, Chris Rinker made the mistake of pushing it a little too hard. The 17 of Dylan Anderson, he's in that spot that he wants to be, but again, he can't lay it off too hard.
Chris is in a good position. Chris doesn't need to worry about anything else except finish this heat. He's running in second position. He's ahead of his rival.
Absolutely, and that's all that matters.
And that's what he needs to concentrate on.
Right. It doesn't matter if they're in 8th and 9th. As long as Rinker's ahead of Terry, he's going to close that gap. And
he's
again,
going to close that gap.
He doesn't need to close the gap and pass him in this heat. All he cares about is when the final checkered flag drops, he's got more points than the 01 of Dustin Terry.
Well,
and that's I think
he's got to use all this to build for that starting position for the final. But
absolutely.
You can see that the wind is swirling around, and those guys are having to lay it down right here at the start-finish line.
Absolutely.
And run that second third of the straightaway a little flatter than they're running the first 2/3 of the straightaway. So, but on the backside, there's no problem. The wind's to their back. They can let it go wide. Look at Grant Schubert. He is just airing it out and letting it float.
Absolutely. And the 8 of Jeremiah will stay with this battle between him and the 01 of Dustin Terry. Terry got a little squirrely down there between turns 3 and 4, and that gap is continuing to close. Here's the real question is, they got one of their teammates who struggled a little bit with that APX on the back, Travis Yates. Will he get used as a pick by his two teammates, and who's going to come out in front when they look to pass him here as they come around down into turns 3 and 4?
Well, I can tell you with racing with my brother for years and years, you want to beat your teammate more than you want to beat anybody else on the course.
Absolutely. Now you see the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo's made it up into the spray, so he's closed that gap a little bit in the corner. Oh, look out there. Dustin Terry almost gets together with his teammate, the 99 of Travis
close.
Yates. A little close, too close for comfort if I'm the 99 of Travis Yates.
Dustin is a little, they're getting low on fuel, which is lightening the boat up, changing the center of gravity of the boat, and you can tell Dustin's having a little bit harder time now running into the wind.
Absolutely, especially with that heavier four-stroke package on the back.
He's got the wider tunnel.
Absolutely. Now, how many gallons would these drivers putting in these Formula One boats for these 7 minutes plus 1 lap qualifying heat here in Formula One?
They're probably putting in 7 gallons, and they're probably using
56 pounds. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah, well, you drop that out, and all of a sudden your boat starts handling different. And,
exactly.
And some guys set their boats up for the beginning of the race, and some guys, and then they just try and hang on at the end of the race. And then some of them, they've got to be more aggressive at the end, so they're waiting for the latter stages. And that's it looks like it's working that way for Jeremiah.
Absolutely, as they continue to fight. There's the Turtle Box 01 of Dustin Terry going down the back straightaway, down into turn number 3. Dives it off turn number 3. Swinging that out of 4 now. There's our leader. Oh, no, the 13 of Grant Schubert pulling into the infield. The 13 of Grant Schubert looks like he might be having some motor problems. That's got to be frustrating for him as he got so much out of that motor in Colorado. Got it refreshed, but looks like he's got some problems here at the opening qualifying heat in Formula One. 22 seconds plus 1 lap. There's the white flag is out for our leader. The 17 of Dylan Anderson with that Anderson Marine on the side. Continue to push hard as he walks it down the front straightaway. 110, 115 miles an hour. Now slams the door down into turn number 1. Puts it off a 1 now back on its tail. Downwind, he's going to let that thing haul. And I got to say, good job by the 52 of Chris Rinker. He was battling pretty hard off the beginning, but he really hasn't relinquished a whole lot of ground from then. What that tells him is if I can get a spot ahead of Anderson, he's not going to be able to catch me if I do what I need to do.
So the next heat, I would think that Chris Rinker is going to go for the acceleration off the dock because he has got to try and jump his main competitor for the championship, which is Dustin, off the dock.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like Dustin Terry does hang on to that third position. Ladies and gentlemen, let me hear you put your hands together, going wire to wire here in the opening qualifying heat in Formula One out of Nashville, Tennessee. Number 17, Mr. Dylan Anderson. Great run there, almost 4 seconds behind him in second. The 52 of Chris Rinker did what he needed to do. Solid finish there in second. The one of Dustin Terry hung on for dear life, and you know what? I guarantee you he was like, I cannot let my teammate pass me, not only for the team orders and and fighting with your own teammates,
what
but he
team
knew.
Orders? They're fighting for a championship.
But he also couldn't allow Mayo
Yeah.
to get behind him because that he knew would just allow more of that points gap to be erased by the 52 of Rinker. But a great battle there between third and fourth between those two drivers.
And then put on top of it, the wind picks up. So all of a sudden the handling changes. So it is difficult for some of these guys that last 5 laps that we had.
Yeah, especially, again, if you set your boat up for the beginning of the race, it means you didn't account for the boat being lighter at the end of the race, and then you add in a wind picking up mid-race.
Yeah. It
really can cause some chaos. What was your preference? Did you like to set your up for the end of the race or the beginning of the race? Or did it depend on the race site?
You know, it kind of depends on the race site because you go to a place that is smooth, then you can push hard at the end. And then you would push hard at the end because you're banking on people being tired and fatigued.
Right.
So then you go to a place like Bay City, Michigan, where the longer the race goes, the rougher the water gets.
Right.
And it's, concrete walls on both sides, so all the water's just coming back in. You want to be up there at the beginning, and you want to then be able to hold your position at the end.
Exactly, right, and that makes a ton of sense. Is again, not only just having a little bit more weight at the end of the race there in a super rough water gives you a little bit more stability, whereas you don't need to worry about that stability. It's not a necessity on a smooth race course like we saw in Windsor, Colorado every year. We get some real nice glassy water out there, whereas in Bay City, Michigan, where we ran for numerous years, you're never going to have nice water except for maybe the first 2 turns on the opening lap.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, sometimes we would run some of the rough water races, and you put extra weight in the boat. You might put some extra fuel in the boat. You might put some extra nose weight for balance. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about, you mentioned nose weight. Right, and that's one thing that in all of racing is important, right? The balance of the racing vehicle that you're using. How important in tunnel boat racing is the weight distribution that you put in? Because, again, right, a guy like me is never going to be able to put anywhere but in the cockpit because I weigh too much. I'm too big. But when you can get yourself under the minimum weight, now that gives you the ability to place weight in certain positions.
Well, let me say this. All these boats are custom made. So they're all custom made to the driver's driving style and weight. But right now, let's go down and get the victor's point of view. Dylan
Absolutely.
Anderson.
All right, Kay, you got there with our winner from qualifying heat number 1, the 17 of Dylan Anderson. Okay?
Dylan, you went out testing this morning. You tested the 2.5, and then you tested the brand new APX motor. What made you choose this particular setup for today?
At the end of the day, our situation always comes down to what's faster in testing and what will the water conditions allow. As long as the water conditions are good, it's 4 strokes faster, it gets the nod. If we know it's going to be a really rough water race or something like that, if the 4-stroke is a little bit faster, but we think 2-stroke will compete, we might go with that. But this weekend, it's all 4-stroke.
Well, I've noticed a lot of the drivers are struggling through turn 2. Give us your perspective of the difference between turn 1 versus turn 2.
Yeah, just as you're coming in, we're getting a good, I don't know if we're creating them or if we're just getting a little rollers from somewhere else out on the course or something like that. But just a little bumpy. You got to kind of slow down a bit as you go through those things. Make sure you don't make a mistake.
Well, you came off a great win in Windsor, Colorado. You've completed another checkered flag in the books because you know you have a big competition sitting right in your back corner on that whole heat trying to hold on to the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to do our best all weekend long. Same thing we pretty much always do. See how it goes. It's a good start. We'll see how the rest of the weekend goes.
Well, congratulations. Another checkered flag belongs right here to the Anderson Marine of Dylan Anderson.
Thank you very much.
Yep. What a great run it was for the 17 of Dylan Anderson. A great run as well for the 52 of Chris Rinker. Really the only person who kind of didn't end up where they wanted to was the 01 of Dustin Terry. And boy, did he have his hands full. I mean, the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo would have loved to have passed him, but Dustin had to be frustrated because he wanted to get around Rinker and really, make sure that Rinker knew, like, hey, man, I'm always going to be just a little bit out in front of you.
Well, it was only one position difference, so that was minimizing the damage.
Oh, for sure.
As far as Dustin goes. And I know he is, he is thinking about the long game, which is the championship.
Right,
so,
especially here.
What you don't want to do, though, is you don't want to box yourself back into a corner to where you come down to the final and you got to go out and win the final to retain the championship. So, Dustin, I'm sure he'll make some adjustments on his boat, and he's going to start ahead of these guys the next time.
Absolutely.
Dustin does have a prop that comes off the beach very, very well, so we'll see what happens. And then they're going to have to come through the field. So,
which again adds a whole other dimension.
Sure, because you got to have a little speed on somebody if you're passing them.
Yeah, you absolutely do, and I can imagine that dogfight to the first turn between Rinker, Anderson, and Terry is going to be a doozy here when we later on today wrap up racing here with their second qualifying heat. It's going to be fun to watch.
It will, because one of the places that Dustin can run is on the outside, and that'll kind of play into his hand a little bit coming through the field.
Absolutely. Well, right now we got the man who closed the gap here in qualifying heat number 1. We'll send it down to Kay Myers. She's with the 52 of Chris Rinker.
Chris, you also came out here this morning testing 2 different boats. Why did you choose this boat as your boat to run for the first heat?
It's like a good pair of boots. I mean, it just feels good. It's actually close. They're both very fast, so you got to go with the ones that got you here, and that boat feels really good. It runs through and turns really good, so we'll just kind of stick with it.
Do you plan on making any kind of changes so you can get ahead of Anderson Marine?
We've got a couple props, but I don't know. Let's see. He's running really good.
Well, I think Chris is keeping it a secret, but we're going to have to wait and see. If he changes a prop for the next heat, maybe we'll see a checkered flag in your hand. Chris Rinker of Rinker Boat World.
Thank you, Kay.
All right, 52 of Chris Rinker's always got some good words for our pit reporter, Kay Myers, as he's looking to has been doing battle and continues to do battle with the likes of Dustin Terry, Jeremiah Mayo, and Dylan Anderson, as one of them is going to leave the San Jacinto River and the Baytown Boat Club with a 2025 Formula One Powerboat Championship Series title in hand. Who will it be? We're not going to find out till tomorrow afternoon. But some great qualifying here in all 3 classes so far. We saw the 35 of Mark Schmierbach and Shelby Love do battle in their opening heat. We saw the 10 of Tanner Rinker try to take out his biggest competitor in Texas Tri-Hall, and he wasn't able to pull it. No, it didn't work. And then we saw the 17 of Dylan Anderson do what he needed to do. The 52 of Chris Rinker do what he needed to do, and the other drivers are just chasing hard.
It is going to be a nail biter because this just keeps getting more intense.
Especially considering that the 52 of Rinker was ahead of Terry, so that 11-point gap, and again, I'm not the points expert. I'm not good enough at math to do all that, but it's got to at least shrunk by 5 or 6 points, and it started at 11. So that now we're in single digits. Yeah, just a couple of points. And in boat racing, right, that has not necessarily been until the birth of the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series, as you're well aware, because there were many seasons where you went out and dominated numerous races on the series. I don't know if I ever recall the last time we had less than 5 points between 2 drivers a portion of the way through the final race of the season.
Oh, over the years, there's been a lot of last races.
For sure.
I think that I have lost 4 or 5 championships by less than 10 points.
Wow. Now, and again, this was before my time. This
That's
was
because
back.
it hurt so bad. You
Never
realize,
forget
you
it.
know, you count all that stuff.
Right. It'll be hard to recall all the wins, but you'll definitely remember when you got
remember
victory
the losses
snatched from you.
They definitely hurt. But you know
absolutely.
what? We had great champions. Scott Gilman was one of those years. Greg Foster was another one of those years. Mike Siebel, my brother, was another one of those years.
Oh, that would have had to especially hurt.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you're losing to one of the greatest of all times, then you can live with it.
Yeah, it's got to feel good. You know, normally in a lot of families you'll see, one good driver in the family, right? Maybe a couple. But what was it like growing up in a household where not only is your dad Bill Siebold, right, which is a tall order in its own right, but
greatest ever.
And then you and your brother are there just knock down, drag out every race for more than a decade alongside of him, right? That's the crazy part.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it was crazy and it was fun and it was so cool to be on a team with them. We all ran the same equipment. We all were on the same radio channel.
What?
So can you imagine what we were talking about?
I can imagine the smack talk.
As far as, hey, get out of my way or whatever. And so, yeah, it was crazy. But I guarantee that my dad, my brother, will say the same thing as me. I don't care what place I got. I could get third to last as long as they were second to last and last.
And I think we see a lot of that now with the Outlaw team, right? They talk about it all the time. Like, listen, we race our teammates harder than anybody. I could care less who else I beat. I just want to make sure I beat the other guys on my team.
And that's exactly right. But indirectly, and my brother and I have talked about this before, I would not have been half the racer that I was if it wasn't for the competition that him and I had.
Right inside your own house.
Because it elevated our racing. It elevated our racing craft,
Oh, absolutely.
So we had to figure out, I couldn't drive like my dad and my brother. I could never drive the boats like they could. But so I had to figure out a different way that worked for me so I could still be competitive with them and try and beat them. So, and that's what you're seeing with the Outlaw team.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of the Outlaw team, right now we're going to send things down to Kay Myers as she's chatting with the 13 of Grant Schubert on what happened there on the start of the opening qualifying heat here in Formula One.
All right, you noticed on that last heat that Grant Schubert had some issues getting off of the dock. I went over to the crew and I said, what happened? They all had their heads inside the cockpit, steering issues. Unfortunately, couldn't get that boat to turn right and get out of those corners, but they are working digitally and they are confident they will be back out for the next heat. Thomas?
All right, well, that's an unfortunate turn for the young driver, and then he went dead in the water down there. It was a rough first qualifying heat, considering the last race is probably the best Formula One race we've ever seen the young driver from Richmond, Texas, running for Captain Marks ever run. He ran Chris Rinker all over the race course up in Windsor, Colorado at 5,000 plus feet. Rinker had the dynamically fuel-injected APX 250 on the back. He went with the carb two-stroke 2.5-liter V6, and he ran that thing like a pro. Got to be frustrated that this first heat is basically a throwaway heat, which you can't afford here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series.
No, you can't. You need points every single time. It's crucial, especially when the competition is so tight.
Yeah.
Grant has had some steering issues throughout this year. He started the season that way down in Bradenton, Florida. And so let's hope he gets those sorted out. He's a great competitor and a great young man. So we're pulling for him. We want to see him get competitive, but let's see how he reacts after a little adversity.
Absolutely, and that's one thing. That's another thing that makes things so difficult here on the Formula One Powerboat Championship Series to be a champion is, again, we don't just have one qualifying heat on Saturday or time trials just on Saturday. You have to perform multiple different times on Saturday and Sunday before you even get to the final. And so that really expands that pressure, not only to the driver, but their support crew and their ability to – now, imagine they're back in the pits just thrashing right now.
You can't make a mistake from you, your team.
Your radio man, nobody.
Everything. And the guy that's going to win this championship is the guy that has the best worst day.
That's a great way to look at it. It really is.
So you have everybody's going to have a bad day. What you need to do to win a championship, you need to have a better worst day than your competition.
Absolutely, and that's what every driver is out here striving for. Some of them have had different reasons for their worst day so far on the 2025 season. We saw in Marble Falls, the one of Dustin Terry was cruising near the lead, trying to track down Dylan Anderson. He spun out because 52 of Chris Rinker was all over him, right? We saw Dylan Anderson go out and run, but we saw Chris Rinker relinquish the lead, the season points championship that he gained in Marble Falls because he couldn't get around the 13 of Grant Schubert because Grant was driving like a maniac and pushing him all over the course. So it's that game of cat and mouse. Everybody on the team is important, and I think at our awards banquet at the conclusion of racing tomorrow evening, I wouldn't be surprised if the eventual champion in all three classes not only is happy, but the appreciation they have for their team. All those people that aren't inside the cockpit that allow them to just laser focus on the one task at hand. And again, it extends that your best, worst day, not only to you, but your crew chief, your radio man, your mechanic, and everybody else on your team.
It starts long before you get to the race site.
Absolutely.
It's your preparation of how you prepare and your team prepares and the knowing your equipment. So that is huge. But don't forget, Chris Rinker, he didn't race the final because he had to take care of his dad in Port Neches.
Yeah.
So consider that he didn't get
150 points were possible.
And he was going to start on pole, I believe.
Pole, yeah, or second. And I don't have my computer up in front of me, but yeah, he was right there in the thick of it.
So he's still in this championship, just like Dylan Anderson. And those two guys had, horrible reasons for not getting points in Port Neches.
Absolutely, and when we talk about that driver prep and the team prep, let's take a look at a piece we put together that goes into a little bit more detail on all the different facets that need to come together to be a championship-winning Formula One Powerboat champion here in 2025.
Between races, the biggest part of our setup is propellers because that's the one thing that we, you can change anything you want about. I'm running a 4-stroke, so there's not a lot of tuning that we can do to the engines. It's all sealed, comes from Mercury. It does give us a little bit of an advantage up here in this higher altitude because everybody's down on horsepower. So all those carbureted guys are constantly changing air jets and fuel jets, trying to get the perfect mixture to make that motor run as good as it can with this thin air. Luckily the computer and our motor does all that work for us. So majority of our tuning is all propellers. We test different propellers throughout the day. That's what today's all about, is testing. So we run through, different propellers. So once you figure out how to drive this thing, they're a lot of fun and they're reliable and they're a great package, but they are different from what everyone was used to.
So in between testing sessions, we'll come back in. Normally we bring 3 or 4 props with us to the water. We'll run them, get some lap times through them all, do a couple starts, see which one leaves the dock better. We'll come in and we'll change weight, see if we want to take weight out of the nose, put weight in the nose, in the back of the boat, remove weight, try and get it right on that weight point to where the boat handles, drives, does everything that you want it to do. There's some more fuel in the boat. Typically you burn a buttload of fuel whenever you're out there just because the throttle is never lifted most of the time. So it's all or none most of the time. The 2-strokes, you come in after testing and you check timing, you change jets, fuel jets, air jets, just everything. Make sure your carburetors are good. Open up the motor, see if the spark plugs are burning right, if they're burning too wet, too dry, kind of see where that is on that. And then also change your prop on that boat. So those are a lot more technical. Up here in Colorado, this is kind of the favorite motor just because you go and turn the key on, it adjusts itself to the altitude, to the temperature, to the dryness, to everything.
So anytime you have a new boat, there's always going to be some, I won't call them gremlins, but just things that need to happen after you get them on the water. Steering cables loosen up, they stretch, so we're going in and tightening our cables up. We'll typically charge the batteries and make sure that they're hot before we get out there. That's an embarrassing one when you get down there and it doesn't fire. So we do a pretty good job. Actually, we do a great job of that. I've got a great team. They do an outstanding job keeping me, at least prepared and calm and know that everything's going to be right when I get in the water.
All right, so after free practice, what we usually come in after laps, we usually run data. So we download data first. We immediately begin charging 24-volt batteries. That lists the first two things right out of the bag. Then I'll jump in the cockpit. I'll kind of remove stuff around, rearrange stuff, maybe add some padding, move this or that. We go through the battery compartments, fuel tank, make sure everything's on trim pumps, wires are good, nice and tight. Because out there with 4Gs at 130, it rattles pretty good. And then we start looking at propellers. Propellers are very similar to what we do with gear ratio, like a tire or a gear in a car. So the propeller, we might go smaller, it might go bigger. We'll look at nodes, we'll look at data, we'll look at punch, we'll look at 0 to 500, 0 to 1,000, 0 to 1,500 feet. What was our best? What do we think is going to beat it? And then we map out a game plan and try and beat it the next free practice. We'll get everything bolt-on ready, rear cowling, fuel on the boat, and then basically we put our slings on. So it's a 3-point sling system. It's basically called a harness. You put the slings on, we pull forward on the dolly, and then the side-by-side pulls up to that, and then I'll attach it, they'll lift it up, lay it in the boat. As soon as it goes into the water, I'll get in the cockpit and do everything set up, which would be an aim set up, turn that on, my harness, and then my Hans and the radios, and then I'll fire off and take off.
All right. Now, no surprise, there's so many things that go into making sure that one of these high-performance racing machines. We've got Kay Myers down at the pit, our pit reporter down in the pits with another interesting story here at the final round of the 2025 season.
In 2025, Travis Thompson just cannot seem to get rid of the gremlins. Unfortunately, started his season with a very bad accident. Spent the next 2 months getting that boat back out onto the water. We saw it earlier where they were taking on water. Unfortunately, the motor went under the water and it took on some water. Had some troubles getting it started. Brought it back up, pulled the plugs, cleaned it out, and he's back out on the water. And that's number 2 of Travis Thompson. Thomas, back to you.
All right, to Travis Thompson, hoping to have a better finish here in qualifying heat number 2 after he struggled in qualifying heat number 1, getting that boat to run at top speed. He's fighting hard after getting that boat repaired after a pretty big wreck, Tim, down in Marble Falls that saw 4 boats collide, the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster, the number 2 of Travis Thompson, as well as the 60 of Brandon Bobolic, and I can't remember the 4th boat, but it was a pretty big collision down there in the opening lap. They got the boat back together, but let's talk a little bit about that. It seems like whenever a driver has a big wreck, there seems like there's always and inevitably other gremlins that pop up that aren't necessarily the hull structure of the boat. Talk about a little bit about why does this seem to happen after a big wreck where a driver will come back, they think they have everything repaired, they've dotted every I, crossed every T, and things like what happened to Travis Thompson seem to somehow happen out on the water?
Well, it's the things you can't see. So we're racing in brackish water right now, so that is hell on your electrics, switches, the electronics on the motor. So once that gets wet, you don't know where it can affect. You don't know what switch it can affect. It could affect your kill switch. So then the motor won't reach, top RPM.
Absolutely.
You also have water, and water in the fuel. So if you go over and you don't clean your fuel tank good, then that could come back to haunt you again.
Absolutely, and let's take a look at that wreck that the 2 of Travis Thompson got into in round 4 in Marble Falls, Texas in early August. You see there the 35 of Mark Schmierbach's coming wide to the outside, And the 2 of Travis Thompson's got a snap to the inside. He gets pegged by the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster. And then that's right, it was the 26 of Steve Lee. They come into the picture with him and the 60 of Brandon Bobolic. And then he sends Bobolic upside down for his first trip swimming in a Formula Light. And boy, that was a rough wreck down there that caused some pretty severe damage to the 2 of Travis Thompson.
What a mess. Well, thank goodness they got it back together. Hey, he's out there on the start dock. Let's hope that his luck's turning around a little bit.
Absolutely, and he's somebody that definitely has the skill and has enough seat time where if he can get out in some clean water and not have his motor wreak havoc on him, that he's going to have a good shot. Looks like the 93 of J.B. Jensen's having to pull out of the water. I don't know if they're going to take a look at something quick and try to get him back running or if he's a scratch here in qualifying heat number 2.
He's a scratch.
Looks like he's going to have to scratch. That's got to be frustrating. He was having so much fun doing the double duty in Tri-Hull and Formula Lights. His pace has started to pick up in Formula Lights, and now he's got to bring that thing back to the trailer and figure out why he couldn't run here in Heat 2.
Well, they'll get it sorted out, and I'm sure he'll be back for Heat 3. But right now, we are getting ready for the second heat of Formula Light.
Absolutely. While we wait here for Chief Referee Doug Ray, we're going to send things over quickly to our pit reporter, Kay Myers. Kay?
Just a quick report before we get our Formula Lights out on the course. We saw J.B. Jensen come on in the 93. I asked what happened. He says throttle cable issues, but they are confident they'll get back out on the water here shortly for this next heat.
All right, looks like we figured out what's going on there. Throttle cable issues. Kind of hard to get maximum speed when you can't get your throttle cable to pull that accelerator on the motor in these Formula Lights.
Yeah, and the way that the throttle works on the OMC is that the cable pushes. So it pushes to make the throttle go wide open instead of pull like a Mercury does.
Ah, okay. So maybe a little bit more stress on those motors.
It could be the bracket, could be the foot throttle, could be a broken cable. So.
All right, test flag is up here. Test flag is up on the race course. Let's see here if we can get these guys ready to go so they know where that flag is going to be dropped here when we go under starters orders in just a minute or so. Here for qualifying heat number 2. Again, this is reverse order of finish from heat 1. One minute drivers, 1 minute on the pole here in qualifying heat number 2. He struggled in heat 1. Can he right the ship? The 2 of Travis Thompson is sitting on pole. 50 seconds, drivers, 50 seconds. Then it's the 17, Santa Fe, Texas, where he calls home. Chris Hughes coming second off the dock. Then the 52 of Addison Dumford and the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster in fourth. 40 seconds, drivers, 40 seconds. Then it's the 60 of Brandon Bobolic, followed by the young driver out of California, the 01 of Jake McKee. 30 seconds, drivers, 30 seconds. Then it's the 30 of Caffarelli, the 26 of Mendana, the 12 of Love, and the 35 of Schmierbach. Let's see what's going to happen here in heat number 2. 20 seconds, drivers. You're under starters orders. The flag is up.
Uh-oh. 01 of
Oh,
Jake.
no. Rookie mistake by the 01 of Jake McKee. Got a little itchy on the trigger finger.
They're going to call this start off.
Looks like they're going to have him circle around now. Everybody's going to shuffle over. And looks like the 78 of Marshall Gildermaster is also pulling around. I don't know if he moved away as well, or maybe Marshall might be like a golfer. He calls a penalty on himself. But no, it looks like he's circling back to his own spot, maybe got out of position a little bit. But, Tim, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's got to be such a hair trigger on the finger. It's got to be so hard to hit it just perfect, especially when you're a young driver like the 01 of Jake McKee.
Well, you're wanting the quickest reaction time you can get. So if these guys are using a toggle switch for the start, you bend that toggle switch down because it's got a little play in it. So you'll bend that thing down so it's not hitting. So that way it's a much shorter distance when you do hit it. And what happens is sometimes you get a little excited. Sometimes you can hit a wave. And I've actually hit it by mistake from a wave coming in when we're sitting on the dock. So.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking to the 8 of Jeremiah Mayo, and he actually put a little guard to rest his finger just to off the edge for that exact reason. And so he doesn't have to worry about a wave bumping it because it's sitting on this little finger rest. And then he just slides it off the side and hammers that toggle switch and gets it going. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he's got such a better such a better start than a lot of the drivers here in the Formula One class. But right now in Formula Lights, looks like the 78 of Gildermaster is having to move. The 8 of Jack Schubert, I don't know if he's, again, still taking on water, not enough time to find the source of that water that's leaking into that Formula Light tunnel hall, and maybe he had to try to, it's like, guys, I don't care if I go to the back of the dock. I got to get some water out of here. I'm not even going to be able to get off the dock with any semblance of speed.
Well, and that's right. You don't have a lot of time in between the heat races, so you can't get an extensive repair done. Let's say if the boat's leaking, it's hard to get something to dry in 5 minutes on wet carbon fiber or wood.
Absolutely, and I think that's why you've seen so many of our drivers, especially in the Formula One class, because it is so tight. They all have a spare boat, and it's not because they want to, use one boat for one type of water or another. It's that safety net so they can go out there and push it on the ragged edge. I know at times in your career you had a backup boat. Other times in your career, younger days when you were running,